All right, guys, what is going on? Welcome to Press X Podcast, episode 49. We are just one episode away from reaching that 50 mark, which is crazy to think. It's crazy how long we've been doing this. So, again, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate all of the continued support, especially during a dramatic week, I guess we could call it, such as this past week. But we definitely have some interesting topics to go over. Now, there's no denying that when it comes to official news of any sort, when it comes to official PlayStation news, it's been pretty slow. I mean, it has been very, very slow. Things have seemingly slowed down to a crawl. It seems as though game development in general has slowed down to a crawl, which is unfortunate. I think we're all just kind of waiting for some bigger game releases. And, in the meantime, we just kind of have to roll with whatever's going on. So before I dive into the topics, I want to give my Play Has No Limits and Play Has No Limits Plus member tier shout out. And I would like it if you guys could do me a big favor and hit that like button. It really does help the podcast out more than you probably know. And right off the bat, we have a new member, Kipford. Thank you so much for deciding to become a channel member. I really do appreciate that. The support that you're giving me directly really does help, especially when things are kind of as slow as they are right now. So I really do appreciate that. And a lot of people have been asking me, how my son's doing. I was thinking about doing a follow-up video. It's just tough for me because I try not to make things too personal or overly personal here on the channel. I try my best to keep it gaming. So maybe I will do a short follow-up video for anybody who maybe doesn't catch the podcast, because I know that not everybody watches the podcast. So to let you guys know, things are going so much better now. My son is home. He's healthy. And we are out of the woods, I guess you could say. There's still a couple things that, we have to follow up on and just some minor stuff. But in general, compared to the situation I was in, me and my wife were in a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, I mean, it is just a massive relief to be back to normal. And I'm very thankful for that. And the support that you guys have shown me during that time was nothing short of incredible. Just goes to show we do have an amazing community here, regardless of what anybody says. And I think that what we experienced over the past couple of weeks is a testament to that. So thank you guys so much. Really is, very nice to see many of you kind of following up and still wondering and still asking. It makes me feel good that you guys actually care that much. So really appreciate that. But things are going good. Things are definitely going good. But with that being said, I do want to give a shout out to somebody's asking, did he have CV? No, he did not have that. Luckily, I mean, he still had something pretty serious, but not that. Because I realized that a lot of people were probably thinking that that's exactly what it was. Kipford, you're saying can't stay, but we'll watch tonight at work. GG. Well, that's no problem, man. I appreciate you stopping by, and we'll certainly appreciate you and anybody else who decides to watch the podcast after the fact. It certainly does help, so appreciate that, buddy. But all right, let me give a quick shout out to my member tiers. So for those who are interested in becoming a member on the second or third tier, the Play Has No Limits and Play Has No Limits Plus tier, it's just a way for you to help support the channel even more so directly if that's something you're interested in doing. So big shout out to the Play Has No Limits Plus tier. Shout out to Junior Jackson, TamTam1982X, D. Luffy, and Samuel Payne. You guys are really going above and beyond to help support me directly. Then we also have the Play Has No Limits tier. So big shout out to Brandon Chad Perez, Matt Wheatley, Alpha Acer, Brittany Goes Meow, Adrian Pollard, Sayin JT, Jeffrey Hicks, Big Norman 0518, Michael Bradley, Tyson Webb 509, MH, Shaky Shako, Ragin' Whiskey, Space Gambler Jr., Josh Z, and the Tiger Man Show. Thank you guys so much. Really can't stress enough how critical the direct support is in that way during times like this. So thank you so much. And I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the topics that we're going to be discussing within the podcast today. So the first topic I want to talk about obviously has to do with all of the drama that's been going on recently with the PlayStation 5 die shot leaking out. And I understand that there are those who are tired of hearing about this, and I do not blame you whatsoever, because it really has gotten to a ridiculous point where, you know, I have been thrown under the bus multiple times by people that I've said nothing but good things about. I have been thrown under the bus by people who have never liked me and very obviously never liked me, and now they had an excuse to essentially be like, well, now I'm going to, you know, really go in. And I put out a video yesterday that people, you know, it was kind of a polarizing response to, which is understandable, because I'm in a position where I cannot act as if I did nothing. I could do that if I wanted to. You know, I could basically say that I can take zero blame for anything. And, you know, I try to be the bigger person. I try to take the high road. And, you know, a lot of people look at that as, dude, that's what you should be doing because you were wrong about everything. And, you know, it is extremely frustrating for me on a personal level, because I went back and I listened to a lot of the content that I produced, because I produced a lot of content in the past year, and it's hard to keep track of all of it. And I say that as the person who literally produced the content. So there's no doubt in my mind that there are some times where I maybe got ahead of myself. Maybe I did say some things that were incorrect. But I've always kind of taken this approach where I've either tried to make myself very clear. For example, if we're covering rumors, if we are covering leaks or, you know, insider info and all that stuff, I've always done my best to make it clear what exactly we're covering, you know? And, you know, I go back and I listen to a lot of the stuff that I said, and you realize that the perception becomes the reality. And you could argue that maybe that's my fault, but it is what it is. You know, I don't know what to tell people anymore. You know, a lot of people have come to my channel in the past year, and, you know, some of my most popular videos were those where I talk about the PlayStation 5's secret sauce, where I talk about, you know, some of the stuff that Sony may or may not be doing with the PS5. That's really kind of, you know, doing something different, doing something unique. And, you know, because we do talk about Xbox here in the channel from time to time, sometimes more frequently than others, depending on, you know, what the flavor of the day happens to be, what the talk of the town, I guess you could say, is. And what happens is when I say, oh, the PlayStation 5 might have this in it, right? It might have some kind of secret sauce. I don't know what else to call it, you know. And it, you know, it might have something in there that would surprise people, that helps it maybe punch a little bit above its weight, and it's not as weak or incapable as some people have tried to paint it out to be. Not that it's ever really mattered, and I've made that point abundantly clear as well. And what happens is, you know, certain individuals take that and they say, so you're telling me the PS5 is more powerful than the Xbox Series X, even though the spec sheets say the opposite. No, actually, I've never said that. If you go back and listen to what I said, the only thing I've ever said is that the PS5 is more capable than I think certain people are giving it credit for. I think it's pretty obvious that the PlayStation 5, I mean, in my opinion, it was always obvious that the PS5 was going to be doing some great things. But the crazy part to me about all of this is I'm being thrown under the bus, even though the proof is in front of our face. So if you go back, there's people, you know, taking shots at me, basically saying that I ran with, You're saying it's RDNA 3. Dude, I never said the PS5 was RDNA 3. I said it could have certain aspects, certain features that were customized and built into it, fine-tuned for the PS5 that eventually could make their way into RDNA 3. Now, the one thing I was wrong about is I did believe this idea that the PS5 had Infinity Cache, and apparently with this PlayStation 5 die shot, came out that it doesn't have Infinity Cache, and I took the L on that. I literally apologized for peddling that and supporting it so heavily. So then the conversation turns into, well, you just wanted it to be RDNA 3, or you hope that the PS5 ends up being RDNA 3. You hope that the PS5 ends up being more powerful. It's like, why wouldn't I? Like, I'm a PlayStation fan who is excited for the PS5. Why wouldn't I want that? It's almost like I have to say I'm guilty for wanting to believe some of this stuff. Now, if you want to say, well, you're guilty for, overhyping it and allowing people who view your videos and your followers to get overhyped with you, well, then fine. If I'm guilty of that, then I'm guilty of that. And I can admit that, you know what, maybe there were times where I should have been a little bit more cautious. I should have maybe warned people a little bit more. Well, you know what, even though I believe this, even though, hey, this is not verified by Sony or AMD or anybody else involved, I probably should have cautioned people a little bit more. But at the same time, I'm not going to apologize for being excited. You know what I mean? Mr. Hamster, you're saying people only hear what they want to hear. Exactly. Exactly. People claim that all I did was I just took big words and I threw those big words out and lied to people. And it's like, I never did that. I even admitted, I went back and I listened to these videos I made. I even admitted that there are some things I'm talking about here that are not my field of expertise. It's not going to stop me from talking about them, but I'm going to give you fair warning that what I'm saying might be wrong. It might be a little bit inaccurate, maybe in some cases very inaccurate. I've never claimed to be an expert. I've never been pompous about this stuff. And that's what frustrates me, because you find that when you're on the internet and you actually try to be the bigger person, you try to admit your fault. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of people who have given me credit for doing so, and I appreciate that. I really, really do. Like, you have no idea how appreciative I am of the people who are, acknowledging that I'm not some kind of malicious person with ill intent who's looking to mislead people. And yet I go to certain content creators' comment sections, and all I see are people literally taking a shit on me in some nasty ways. And I'm like, really? Like, this is what it's turned into? Like, that's who I am. That's who MBG is on his channel. And you know what the reality is? They just get pissed off because they don't like what I have to say, because I am hard on their preferred platform, because I am more critical of what they're doing, not them, the individuals, but the platform that they're fans of, right? They get mad because they just couldn't deal with this idea. They claim that it's us, that we can't deal with this idea that the PS5 is going to be less powerful than the Series X. That's not difficult to deal with at all. On paper, we've all known this. Yes, the Series X has a bigger, more capable GPU, and maybe it has some more features that the PS5 doesn't. Not sure why that matters, considering we're literally seeing the results right in front of our face with the PlayStation 5 that's been out for 3 months, but okay. iSiler18, you're saying the power talk is long, old, and annoying. You don't have to apologize for anything, bro. When I start seeing games that look as good as The Last of Us 2, Ragnarok from Xbox, they can walk the talk. Yeah, I mean, to put it, look, I know that I'm going on here, and I want to try my best not to turn this podcast into basically MBG's defense. Like, no, because you're right. It's over now. It's over. It's been over. I mean, how many times have I talked about RDNA 3 since the PS5 was actually out? I can't recall, because it wasn't relevant. It wasn't relevant when the PS5 launched. It's not relevant now. It was relevant then because we wanted to know more about what's going on with the PS5. And yes, during those times, it's very interesting to know, how does the PS5 stack up exactly against its main competition with the Series X, right? Mr. Hamster, you're saying they can't take your opinion, but they come to your channel every day. Yeah, dude, it's ridiculous, man. Like, I know people are like, dude, stop apologizing. And that's the thing, is I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. It's just, I don't have, a big enough ego to believe that I'm not at fault for anything. I can't do that because in my opinion, that's just straight up wrong. People who can't admit that they were wrong about some things or take some of the blame, I feel like there's something wrong with that. That's just a human thing in general. Like we're not perfect. We all make mistakes. We need to acknowledge that. And I feel like maybe my biggest mistake was getting overly excited about something that had a much higher chance of being untrue than true. And that's probably my biggest problem, in general with this stuff is when we hear rumors, it sometimes turns into it doesn't necessarily matter where they're coming from. All that matters is the rumor itself. And then I get excited about what we're hearing. And again, like there are people throwing me under the bus where I have had nothing but good things to say about them. And they basically just, toss me out. And it's not a big deal. Like, it is what it is. There's a reason why I'm a loner. There's a reason why I don't really interact with many people here because the truth is, guys, like everybody has an agenda. And if you don't understand that, then you're basically just being ignorant to that fact. Everybody who's doing what they do on the internet, they all have an agenda, myself included. And there's nothing wrong with that because not every agenda is necessarily a bad one or one with ill intent. And what happens is we see a situation where it's like, it's all about perception. What is this person's agenda? And once people are convinced that, well, their agenda is to literally lie, mislead, deceive, once people start to have that perception, then the truth no longer matters. Like what they're actually doing doesn't matter. And I understand that when this PS5, you're saying it's not just that you said Moore's Law is very credible and you got burned for it, just admit it. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is I did say that. You're talking about Moore's Law is dead. Dude, I literally pumped him up on my channel, and I understand why he would be frustrated that I did that, but still, he seemed pretty confident in what he was saying, and I don't even think he was wrong about everything. Like, people forget, he did get God of War, right? And I know, this sounds crazy, like, dude, why are you talking positively about a guy who threw you under the bus? Because I don't care, because people are going to throw me under the bus anytime they want to throw me under the bus, dude. Like, that's just how it works. People are out for themselves, man, especially when they feel as though they're in a corner. That's just human nature. I don't expect any different from anybody. But people do forget, he did get God of War correct, and it's like, I don't believe that everything these insiders get is 100% bogus. They're not wrong every single time, regardless of what people want to regurgitate to you, because that's what this is, people. It is a power struggle. It is all about the ego. It's all about who has the best track record, who's untouchable, who's right in the end, who has the last laugh. And in my opinion, it's just a bunch of bullshit. It really is. Because at the end of the day, I don't know, man. I'm sitting here with my PS5 enjoying some games. Granted, things are quiet right now, but things are quiet across the board for anybody and everybody. So I'm not really sure who gets the last laugh. That's why I had to make that video yesterday. It's like, yeah, I'll apologize for overhyping things. And in some cases being wrong about, peddling certain rumors that just turned out to be untrue. But at the same time, it's like, who's really losing here? People like, you lost, MBG. And it's like, okay, sure, I lost. If I need to be the scapegoat, then that's fine. People are going to do what they're going to do. They want me to put up some kind of massive fight. They want me to start pointing the finger and calling people out. And it's just like, I'm not trying to get involved in all that bullshit drama. There's a lot of people you're going to watch who are going to claim that they don't want to get involved in the drama, yet they're the first people to start calling out names and dunking on people. And it's just like, you're a fucking hypocrite, dude. That's what you are. And I don't know why the problem is people are just okay with it. And that is the part that's troublesome to me, is people are okay with the hypocrisy. And I'm not claiming I haven't been a hypocrite in the past, because we all, it's human nature to do so. The problem is people just seem to be okay with it. They just seem to accept it. Anyway, I'm really starting to go on a tangent here. In case you can't tell, yeah, it's been a frustrating week. Andrew, you're saying, can you explain to dummies like me what RDNA even is? Yeah, I'm going to get into that in a second. Darren, I see PlayStation versus Xbox like iOS versus Android. Both have their strengths, and although PS and iPhone have weaker hardware, devs know how to max out performance. Well, that's the thing here, dude, is that when it comes to all of this drama that, again, people like to claim that they don't want to be involved in, yet they're the first people to start beating their chest when they feel as though they got something right, and calling people out, right? When it comes to RDNA, it's very simple, okay? RDNA is something that both Sony and Microsoft have implemented into their next generation consoles, or their current generation consoles now that they're out. Both versions of RDNA that are inside the PS5 as well as the Xbox Series X are highly customized. Now, we don't know for sure. I mean, maybe we do. I guess it depends on how deeply you look into it. But it seems as though Sony made some deeper customizations or cutbacks, whatever you want to call it. That's what people are saying now. Oh, they just took a bunch of stuff out. They won't tell you why they took the stuff out. They'll just tell you they took it out, right? But when you actually look into it and you listen to people speak who seem to know what they're talking about, they'll basically say, well, actually, it makes a lot of sense why they took this out. But anyway, they're both highly customized. I've said this in the past, before any of this came out, before any of this drama ensued, and I'm saying it now. I literally said multiple times that until Sony or AMD confirm there's RDNA 3 in the PS5, Infinity Cache, whatever it may be, we have to leave it up in the air, regardless of how much we want to believe it may be there. But again, nobody wants to say these things. Nobody wants to acknowledge the fact that these were things that were literally said and stated. And again, it just goes to show it's all about the perception, and people are dunking on others because right now they know that they're swaying the perception in their damn favor. And that's where I get frustrated. It's because people are all about, I want the truth. I want the truth. And it's like, you want the truth? No, you want your truth. That's what you want. You want to believe, like, dude, I literally saw on Twitter yesterday, somebody point out, I need to find can anybody recommend me a PlayStation-centric channel that doesn't constantly bash Xbox? And you see all these Xbox channels, fucking retweeting it and being like, yeah, I don't know, where are those channels? It's like, again, the fucking hypocrisy. This is where I genuinely get pissed off, because it's like, you people do the same thing. Yet you act like you don't. You act like you're innocent. You turn your back and you just pretend. And the worst part, as I said, is people eat it up, man. They eat it up. They're like, yeah, you're the best. You don't do anything wrong. Like, are you kidding me? Acknowledge what you are. How come I can do that? And I get shit on for it. I get thrown under the bus. And yet other people, they're just better, right? So maybe I'm the fool here. Maybe I'm the fool for just being able to admit what I am and what I do, and how, yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not trying to be right 100% of the time, because I never will be right 100% of the time. And yeah, when I get my things right, I'm going to say, hey, I got this right. Pretty cool, huh? When I get it wrong, I'll say, damn, I got this wrong. Got to take the L. People are like, damn, MBG, you take a lot of L's. Yeah, it's because I'm the only one actually admitting it. Fantasy Gamer, you're saying, I'm sitting here enjoying both consoles, so I really don't get this console war. Just buy the console. Just don't buy the console you don't like. It's that simple. Dude, I said this shit already. You think anybody cares? Do you think anybody cares that I said this? Do you think anybody cares that I literally said on November 1st, 10 days before the Series X came out? Because I know I'm such an Xbox hater. I'm so against it. I literally told everybody, dude, if you are excited for the Xbox Series X, you need to do yourself a favor and go buy one. Like, honestly, you do. Because even though I can have my own opinions, and my opinions usually fall in line with, I'm not a big fan of what Xbox is doing at all. Like, I'm really not a big fan of it, right? You're saying the problem is, MBG, you like to throw a rock, then play the victim. Dude, here's the thing, though. You claim I'm playing the victim. Am I really playing the victim, though? Or, dude, I literally put out a tweet where I owned up to it. And again, some people were giving me credit for that, and yet I still get name dropped and thrown under the bus. So it's like, do you think people are mentioning that? That's the point here. Do you think these people who are throwing me under the bus, this is where I'm not trying to play the victim, but think about this. Why is it that I'm the one who comes out, publicly apologizes, publicly says, okay, I probably got this wrong, mainly because a lot of people are pointing the finger at me, and I admit that, and these people who are name dropping me, rather than being like, okay, look, he put out his apology, here it is, he admitted it, you know, I'm not, I haven't seen it, haven't heard it, no, I'll get called a fraud. I'll get called a fanboy channel who's just using other people's claims as fuel, which, okay, because I guess I'm the only channel that does that, right? It is what it is, man. Well, if there's one thing I've learned in all this is that you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And, you could argue that maybe that's exactly why nobody's taking their L's. Maybe that's why nobody wants to take their L's. Maybe that's why nobody wants to admit the honest to God truth, because you are damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, Again, I know that I'm making it sound like I'm dismissing all of the people who, gave me credit for that. I don't mean it to make it come off like that. I really do appreciate that, because at a time like this, it's like, okay, I'm glad people are actually acknowledging this, Primal Plasma, you're saying, bro, if you have haters, then you are a success. Well, dude, everybody's going to have their haters. I mean, I appreciate that, but everybody's going to have their haters. You're saying your PlayStation influencers threw you under the bus, MBG. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not trying to please everybody. My intent was never to do that. My intent on the channel mainly is to just try to, cut through the bullshit, because there's a lot of bullshit to go around constantly. I'm sure you all are aware of that. And, there's always going to be a war, there's always going to be a war. There's always going to be sides. There's always going to be people saying this, people saying that, he said, she said. That's just the way it is. It's the way it always has been and always will be. And I'm not, ignorant to this. But I just feel like if we are actually genuinely in the pursuit of being better, then, we have to admit time, we have to own up. And I think, if you want to be the person that just, quietly says, okay, I'm sorry, and then you just move on and continue to do what you're doing, then you can do that. But I feel like sometimes in order to actually experience true growth, we have to really kind of embrace what it is and not hide it, and not, I mean, I'm not saying, it's up to each person to determine if they want to feel ashamed of it, but it's like, Marcus, you're saying thing is PlayStation devs are way more competent with their hardware, like giving a NASCAR to a normal person. They can drive it, but they can't use it to its full potential. Yeah, I do apologize, guys. I've spent a large chunk of this podcast so far just kind of, playing defense mode. I do apologize. I know that that's not why you guys tune in, and I don't mean to turn it into that. It's just it's been a very incredibly frustrating week, and frankly, doing the podcast and being able to kind of vent it here a little bit is extremely cathartic. So hopefully you're understanding of that. Alien Tenno, you're saying MBG 2021 PS5 greatness awaits. And yeah, and so just to kind of finish up with the whole RDNA confusion, I have to title it RDNA 1.5/3 confusion, because no, the PS5 is not RDNA 1.1. It's not RDNA 1.5. It's not RDNA 2. It's not RDNA 3. Okay, the PS5 is some type of RDNA hybrid that can't really be classified because it wouldn't make sense to classify it. RDNA 1 doesn't feature ray tracing. RDNA 2 does. It's things like that. There's a lot of aspects to it where it's, I've seen people be like, oh, the Xbox Series X is RDNA 1.5 and whatnot. It's just like, all right, look, if you're somebody who is tired of the power talk and you're tired of the RDNA talk and you frankly just don't care about this, then I'll give it to you as clearly as I can. Both of these next-gen consoles are extremely powerful and extremely capable. One console is all about being more powerful and offering more features. However, that's only on paper. If you're looking for real-world results, what we have seen in the real world, not in delusion land, not in future land, what's going to happen. I'm talking right here, right now, 3 months after these consoles have been out. Well, from what I can see, they're both very capable. And there are differences between both of them. There are actually, as you can go back and check the content on my channel, you can go watch Digital Foundry. There have been multiple instances. There are multiple instances where the PS5 is, even if it's just ever so slightly, in some cases it's not. In some cases it has been a little bit more intense, not super intense, but it's usually pretty minute. There have been multiple cases of the PS5 outperforming the Series X. Now, there have also been cases of the Series X outperforming the PS5. Look at Hitman 3. It's a perfect example of a game where, look, if you play the Xbox Series X version, you're getting that same high frame rate, where I think it did dip sometimes, but still, you're getting that same high frame rate. You're getting, the high settings and whatnot, but you're also getting a slightly higher resolution. Whereas on the PS5 version, it's slightly less. And so it's like, okay, like, isn't that the way it was supposed to be this entire time? And that's just one game. We haven't seen that with a lot of games. And look, people are here's where it gets messy. That is the hard reality. That is the pill that we all need to swallow right now, whether you're a hardcore PlayStation fan or a hardcore Xbox fan. The pill that you need to swallow right now is that they're both doing just fine and holding their own. Neither one has some kind of massive, blatant advantage over the other when it comes to specifically third-party multi-platform games. So, I don't understand, like, why I'm constantly being told, just wait. Just wait. Wait till the tools go into full effect. Wait until developers really start to wrap their head around the Series X. And it's like, look, that may happen down the line. We don't know. I don't know the future. I don't know if the day is going to come where in 2023, the Xbox Series X is greatly outperforming PS5 in multi-platform next-gen games. I don't know if that's going to happen. Based off of what I see right now, it seems unlikely. And this is where it's like, you're ignoring the facts, man. You're ignoring the facts about what's in the Series X, the features. And it's like, dude, come on, man. Like, just as I said in the past with what is in the PS5, what we may end up seeing, we're not seeing it now. All those times I talked up the PS5 and I explained how the PS5, based off of its architecture, its I/O throughput, its speed, right, combined with just how powerful it is, it has the potential to change game development and do some crazy things that we just weren't expecting. We haven't seen that yet. I think the closest thing we're seeing is with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. But even then, a lot of people are downplaying that, even though it's like right in front of our faces, like literal proof, like dimension hopping, instantaneous, boom, 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 completely different levels, streaming in things at a rate that we haven't seen before. Insomniac Games literally coming out here saying, yeah, we could only make this work on the PS5. People will downplay that. They will shit on that while simultaneously telling us, wait for the tools, man. Wait until developers really start to utilize it. Like, are you kidding me? This is why I get frustrated. And you know what? Sure, leave your comments. Oh, MBG's crying, MBG's this. No, dude, you know what? Say what you want to say, but I'm not wrong about what I'm saying right now. Okay? They're telling you to wait while we're seeing the results now. Granted, the results are not extreme. I'm not trying to make it sound like, oh, well, look at what Insomniac is doing with Ratchet and Clank on the PS5, so therefore that renders the Series X a piece of garbage. No, but you're not seeing a game like that on the Series X, okay? You're not seeing nearly as many games releasing on the Series X at the same type of quality level that you're seeing from PlayStation. That's just a hard fact. You're going to try to tell me that Microsoft has something lined up in the next 4 to 5 months that's going to compete with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, that's going to even compete with a game like Returnal? They still haven't released something since launch that can compete with Demon's Souls or Spider-Man Miles Morales. So frankly, they can take this shit and they can get out of here because I don't understand. Like, you want to be right about the fact that the PS5 is missing Infinity Cache, and you want to flex on that so hard, and you want to really rub that in. That's great, but at the end of the day, what's it come down to? Is that what it comes down to? Is that how your enjoyment is determined? It's by, what the PS5 is missing. Okay. Okay, Kapapa, you're saying PS5 performs better than what people expected. Why? Maybe Mark Cerny knows. Even Digital Foundry has to go to photo mode to see teraflop difference between the S and the PS5. This is what I'm talking about, man. Like, people they jump on me all the time. And do you ever think that maybe it's because what I'm saying really isn't that crazy? The idea that Sony is doing just fine with the PS5, all of the games I played on the PS5 look incredible. I mean, these are the same dudes who were like, yeah, that Xbox Series X full RDNA and RDNA 2 feature set, 12 T-flops, and then we see Halo Infinite. And I'm not saying that they defend it. I mean, some people defended Halo Infinite. They were quick to call it out as well, which I will give them credit for that. Like, yes, thank you. You need to let them know this is unacceptable. Okay? This is not the showcase that people were expecting. But yet they're still going to have the balls to come over here and be like, yeah, well, Ratchet and Clank, yeah, I don't know, man. That's weak. That could run on the Series X. Like, okay. I mean, sure. Whatever, dude. Gimex, you're saying, I'm a huge fan, MBG. Also, don't listen to the haters. A bunch of Xbox fanboys that has nothing better to do because they have no games. And when they do, it's dog water, and especially not worth Game of the Year. And again, dude, like, look, I get it. Like, I'm triggered right now. That's very obvious. I'm ranting, I'm raving, I'm crying, whatever you want to call it. Of course, that's what I'm doing right now. Although I think I'm making some pretty salient points here, but I understand. We want it to be about the good stuff. We want it to be about the exciting stuff. We want it to be about the games. And frankly, things have just been... I mean, look, I'm talking about this so much because there's just not much else to talk about right now that I haven't already discussed. Although, you could argue that we've already discussed this in the past, which is true. But it's, there's a lot of stuff being rehashed right now, brought up again. And, I guess just to kind of put a bow on this, because it's really the biggest point that I'm trying to make here. I don't have a problem with anyone, okay? Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Everyone is entitled to like what they want to like, and think whatever is great is great. But I just feel like it's just so ridiculous to me that the build-up to the PS5 was significantly more exciting, in my opinion, than the build-up to pretty much any other console. Okay, and the reason for that is because at some point Sony was like, and they said it themselves, we're going to let the games do the talking. And that's what they did. And I admit, I went a little bit further than that. I talked a little bit more than just about the games, which I think is fine. We're always going to continue to do that. But that's the point. Like, that's what they did. They let the games do the talking. They have released a solid launch lineup. They've had games that have already impressed. They have more games coming. I mean, in the next 3 months, starting in March, basically, in the next 3 months, I'm going to be hopefully playing Kenna Bridge of Spirits. Although I'm thinking that game might get delayed. But we're going to be playing Returnal, Deathloop, and Ratchet and Clank. And then I'm assuming by June or July, we're going to find out what the second half of 2021 looks like for PlayStation releases. And that's pretty solid, man, considering I've already played Demon's Souls, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Sackboy, not bad at all on top of the third-party games. And in my opinion, these are just things that, like, you can't deny. You just can't deny it. Josh Z, you're saying, thank you for the generous super chat, by the way, buddy. You're saying, I have to shout out that today is Zelda's 35th anniversary. Zelda is my favorite series, and I think it's the gold standard for quality single-player action adventure. The genre can only copy or refine things Zelda pioneered. Yeah, that is true, man. That is true. I gotta admit that that is something that I think is worth noting, because Zelda has certainly paved the way for many a games that we have enjoyed throughout the years, and it's crazy to see how relevant Zelda still is. That's just to kind of deviate here. And I guess we should just start focusing more on the games. I do apologize again for just ranting so much, but, um, that's one thing Nintendo's very good at. They're very good at keeping their IP not just a little relevant, but like extremely relevant. And they're still, Nintendo's not perfect. I think we all know that. There's certainly people who have their problems with Nintendo, but they get the most important thing right. And I think that that's why a company like Nintendo still gets as much attention and as much praise as they do. Is like more often than not, they get the most important thing right, and that is delivering games that people really like, that everybody can kind of like universally look around each other and be like, this is pretty damn great, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And yeah, so appreciate that, man. So yeah, Zelda's 35th anniversary. That's crazy how old that is, man. iSiler18, you're saying, I have a feeling Kenna will be a PS Plus game. What do you think? I think that would be huge if it was. I think Kenna Bridge of Spirits is a game that actually has significantly more excitement around it than maybe you would first think. Based off of the way I see people talk about it and interact with it on Twitter and the internet and stuff, it seems like there's like a lot of hype behind it. So if it were to become a PS Plus game, I think that would be just massive. But I mean, it's releasing on PS4, so I feel like it's unlikely it's going to be a PS Plus game. And I also feel like when you look at the quality of it, it looks like it's pretty high. I don't think it's going to be a $60 or $70 game. I think it's going to be like 40. I could be wrong about that. That's just an assumption. But I think people are very much willing to pay for that game. More so than, say, a game like Destruction All-Stars. Like, Destruction All-Stars, I mean, the only chance that game has and still has is what PS Plus is doing for it right now. Because, I mean, very few people are going to buy that game once it's, being sold for, I mean, unless it's like 10 or 20 bucks. Yeah, so I appreciate the super chats, guys. You're saying, MBG, you don't need to defend yourself. Just state the facts and let the truth do the talking. The world is round. End of story. Don't argue. It's not flat. Well, I mean, hey, I'm not getting into that debate here because you already know what that leads to. But, look, I respect, other content creators. I don't have a problem with anybody. I'm not trying to start drama with anybody. That's not what this is about. I understand that at the end of the day, because there is certainly truth to what you're saying. Like, it would be wise of me going forward to just stop getting involved in this stuff. I realize at this point that it's in my best interest as well as all of our best interest to just, as you said, focus on the facts. And, I can't sit here and say that I'm never going to cover any more rumors, that I'm never going to cover any more leaks, that I'm never going to potentially cover any more insider information, because I'm not going to make that claim. That's basically just setting myself up for failure, because of course that's going to happen in the future. But what I can promise is that going forward, we're going to have to take a different approach to the way we cover these things. It's just like with the whole Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid thing. Like, do I still believe these things are real? Yeah, I do. It's because I want them to be real, because these are games that I would love to see make a comeback, especially Metal Gear Solid. But right now, there's just nothing official. And, I made a video this week talking about it, and it's like no one's interested. And it's like, you know what? I get it. I get it. How can we be that interested in something that at this point it's like, okay, we've done enough talking about it. Let's just wait until it actually reveals itself, and then we'll talk about it. And so that's where I think it's a balance. It's tough to not want to talk about, hey, check out this new report on Silent Hill during a time when like nothing else is going on. One thing I have noticed is that there seems to have been a plethora of Xbox related rumors that have come out since basically the beginning of the year. And some of them I think are turning out to be true. We're actually going to talk about one of them later in this video. Not video, but this podcast. Actually, I don't know. Maybe we should just talk about it right now. I mean, yes, this is a PlayStation-centric podcast and channel, but I got some Xbox footage going, B-roll footage in the background. So I think it would be appropriate to talk about this, because I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about this one and how you feel about it, because I do think there might be some truth to it. But again, it is a rumor. It is an Xbox-related rumor, but it's an interesting one. And basically, it has to do with a event that Microsoft is apparently planning or reportedly planning to hold an event sometime next month, and it's specifically going to be related to Bethesda. So it says mentioned by GamesBeat journalist Jeff Grubb on the latest GamesBeat Decides podcast. Xbox is said to be planning to hold an event of some sort related to Bethesda in the near future. Jeff Grubb says that this will be one of the marquee events that Xbox has as it leads up to E3 2021. Once the deal closes, they will talk about it in a big way. I don't know if it will be like a full direct style event, but they will make note of it and they will talk about it extensively and explain what it means to everybody. This is what Jeff Grubb said. Expect that to happen sometime in mid-March. The reason why Xbox hasn't had a presentation like this already is because, as Jeff Grubb mentioned, the deal to acquire Bethesda hasn't formally transpired yet. While the announcement of the intent to acquire the publisher was done last year, the deal hasn't actually officially closed, and it's not set to close for the next couple of weeks. And so, Microsoft kind of had to remain relatively quiet about this because it's technically illegal to basically make claims or say what they're going to do when they haven't actually acquired them yet. Cook X84, you're saying, I'd love to briefly hear your thoughts on the chances of a Sonic Adventure 3 PS5 announcement at this year's E3, dude. To be completely honest, man, I don't follow Sega in that way. So, like, I can't give you a good, I guess you could say, idea as to whether or not that's something that's likely to be announced. I wish I could. And I do appreciate the super chat, but I will say that I think I'll just say it's 50-50 because I don't know, Like, I think that there's a 50% chance it could be. There's a 50% chance it might not end up showing up, So if anything, I would need you to kind of maybe educate me a little bit on that because I'm completely ignorant to a lot of what Sega is currently doing, and especially when it comes to Sonic, unfortunately. So I apologize that I can't give you a better answer than that. Gimmicks, you're saying I searched up when was the last Xbox Game of the Year award. They never had one. Yeah, I mean, that is quite unfortunate, man. I want to believe, I will give Microsoft this. I want to believe that sometime this generation, they're going to have their time in the sun because they're long overdue, right? I would want to see that. See that again, that's where people, I think they misinterpret me. I would love to see that. People are like, dude, you're never going to buy a Series X. You're too biased. Like, no, dude, I literally want to buy a Series X, but I'm waiting to see some games. When Hellblade 2 drops, dude, I'm going to get a Series X for that. State of Decay 3, I am all over that. Maybe Fable, but we got to see these things, man. We got to see the games drop. Primal Plasma, you're saying Sony learned from Nintendo to make quality exclusive AAA games to succeed. Microsoft would be fools to not keep Bethesda games exclusive to the Series X. Yeah, and so that's kind of, we kind of return to this whole conversation about Bethesda, and it's been talked about more than enough at this point, but I do find this rumor very interesting simply because of how plausible it actually is. I mean, does anybody, even if there isn't an event, there's no doubt that once this deal does close, Microsoft for sure is going to talk about it. And I'm not going to lie, like, it has me a little bit nervous simply because it's going to be a big moment, man. Like, if Microsoft comes out and they make it, like, regardless of your opinion of Bethesda, if they come out and they make it abundantly clear, yes, now that we have officially acquired Bethesda and we have folded them into Microsoft, going forward, all Bethesda games will be exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. I mean, that's going to be a big deal, man. I mean, there's no way around it. I can't sit here, as I've said before, and say that I'm the biggest fan of Bethesda because I'm literally not. I know that people are going to want to, in their own way, believe that I'm just saying that. No, it's true. Like, the last Bethesda game I played legitimately was, I think it was The Evil Within 2, which was great. And I'm actually excited to see what Tango Gameworks, what they're doing with, Ghostwire Tokyo, which is definitely very different. But, this idea that Microsoft is basically eager to have another event and really just kind of talk about Bethesda in a big way. I mean, it's up to you to believe Jeff Grubb here. I think he's been correct about stuff in the past, but again, This whole insider stuff. I mean, I'm clearly completely wrong for believing PlayStation insiders, so I guess I should just assume that I'm going to be completely wrong for believing Xbox insiders as well. Got to keep that same energy. But I think it just makes sense. Like, again, regardless of whether or not what he's saying exactly is true to a T, I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to talk more about the Bethesda deal and acquisition as soon as that is completely a done deal, right? And so this has been something that I've obviously been thinking about since the announcement with their intent to acquire Bethesda. My opinion, Bethesda's games will be exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. At least the overwhelming majority of them. I think that there could be the occasional, maybe it would make more sense to keep releasing this on PlayStation. But what you said is true, man, about this idea that the reason why Sony and Nintendo have had such tremendous success is due to their exclusive games and the IP that they keep exclusively on their platform. However, it's difficult to say that with 100% confidence. Like, oh yeah, they will make their games exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem, because just look at the way Microsoft has been handling the Xbox brand in the past 5 years. Sure, like people say, well, if you look at the previous studios that Microsoft bought, and I do agree, I think that this is the biggest piece of evidence that we can look at to kind of determine whether or not Microsoft is going to make these games exclusive. Look at what they did with the previous studios that they purchased. Now, granted, the biggest difference is that you simply cannot compare a studio acquisition such as Compulsion Games or Undead Labs or even Playground Games or Ninja Theory to the acquisition of an entire publisher, that being Bethesda, an entire gaming company. It's like comparing apples to oranges. They're just two different things. But we do need to acknowledge the fact that Microsoft made it clear that these games, that are being produced, such as Hellblade 2, Compulsion's next game, State of Decay 3, they're not coming to the PlayStation platform, and I understand that there's an inherent difference, a big difference between a game like, say, Doom, a game like, say, Wolfenstein, Elder Scrolls, Fallout. These are games that are well known to be everywhere. So it is a little bit different. The stakes are certainly different. I think a lot of PlayStation fans, frankly, and, this is where I'm going to be truthful. I can't say I'm one of these fans, because, again, I'm not the biggest fan of Bethesda, but I think some PlayStation fans are going to be absolutely crushed if Microsoft decides to make all of Bethesda's games exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. I think obviously there are some fanboys that are going to be very upset, but I'm talking about people who legitimately just basically spent years playing Bethesda games on the PlayStation platform. I think they're going to be absolutely crushed if they find out that, hey, the next Doom, the next Fallout, the next Elder Scrolls, Starfield potentially, all these games that you enjoyed, they're going to be, you're not going to be able to play them on your PlayStation anymore. I really think that's going to be a big blow. That's going to be a big blow to not only the PlayStation platform in some ways, because those are all games that are going to, most of them, some of them are going to sell really, really, really well. And Sony would have gotten a piece of that pie in the past. Now they're no longer getting a piece of that pie. So Sony's losing out in that way. And PlayStation fans who enjoyed Bethesda's games on the PlayStation platform, it's going to be tough. They're basically going to be forced to either go play on PC or buy an Xbox. And I think, again, if I'm being honest here, I think it would be smart of Microsoft for their console specifically. It would, dude, Microsoft coming out here, holding a Bethesda event, maybe showing off some new games, maybe showing Starfield gameplay for the first time, getting people pumped, getting them hyped, and then ending it by being like, and by the way, all of these games are exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. Dude, that's going to bode very well for Xbox console sales. But the question is, how much has Microsoft really cared about that? You know? I mean, did you guys see the rumor? I didn't cover this because I thought it was ridiculous. But did you guys see the rumor that popped up? I think it was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, where 343 Industries wrote on like their blog post where it's like, we're gonna give you a new place to play Halo Infinite. And dude, people were running wild. Like, it's coming to PlayStation, it's coming to, it's coming to Tesla, whatever, all these different places. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I don't think so. The reason why I say this is because let's not forget that Microsoft showed an interest in putting their content on the Nintendo Switch. Like, they were very much interested in doing that. And then just like out of nowhere, Phil Spencer kind of came out and was like, yeah, we maybe were confusing people. We were trying it. But I think we're just going to focus on the Xbox ecosystem now. To me, what that indicates, trying to read between the lines here, is that Microsoft was interested for maybe quite some time in trying to actually spread their content out to just all platforms that were willing to take it. And maybe some platforms either wouldn't take it, or, they just started to realize maybe that's not the best way to go about it. They have a new console and they were like, you know what, never mind, let's pull back on this. So I don't know. I mean, this is certainly a relevant topic to PlayStation because we're going to find out this year the future of Bethesda games on the PlayStation platform. And whether you love or hate Bethesda, there's no doubt that they're going to have some of the biggest games that come out over the next 5 to 10 years. Whether that's the Elder Scrolls 6, Starfield, the next Fallout, these are things that are frankly undeniable. This is what I'm saying, man. People think I'm like an avoider of facts. Like, no, factually speaking, Bethesda is a huge publisher with some huge IP that people really love. Not everybody loves them. And yeah, the fact of the matter is Bethesda has been hurting their reputation in recent years. That doesn't mean they can't recover from it, but it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal. And I'm excited, honestly. Like, I'm excited for Microsoft to close this deal so they can start talking more about it. Maybe, if they do an event, I'll stream the event. And I will be interested. You're saying, MBG, you need to clean up your channel. Way too many toxic Xbots in here. This is a PlayStation-centric channel, yet there's obviously a huge amount of Xbot trolls just here to troll. I mean, I think it's just natural that I'm going to have a pretty decent, healthy amount of Xbox fans coming to the channel because I used to be that Xbox fan, that big Xbox fan, and I still do talk about Xbox, as you can clearly see right in front of you. Xbox still plays a big role in this channel. It's a PlayStation-centric channel. That's my primary platform, has been for quite some time now. But we still talk about Xbox. I was just going to say Xbox. We still talk about Xbox. And yeah, some hardcore Xbox fans are going to make their way in. I just, when it comes to the toxicity of the whole thing, it comes with the territory, man. Like, it doesn't matter how, unless I literally don't ever talk about Xbox, there's going to be some form of toxicity. That's just the way it is on both sides. So, don't get me wrong, dude. I appreciate anybody who comes and shows up and listens to the podcast. Anybody who listens to the channel, I appreciate you all. Saying MBG, come back to the dark side on Xbox. I don't look at Xbox as the dark side per se. I mean, I think that they've cleaned themselves up in a pretty significant way in the past year or two. And it's not that I'm like actively pushing against going back to Xbox in any way. It's just that PlayStation, going forward is definitely my primary platform because, the day I realized that they are producing the exact type of games that I like most and want to play. They're not all incredible. I'm not trying to make it sound like I enjoy every single PlayStation game that comes out. That's not always the case. But the overwhelming majority of the games that they produce, I find myself just very impressed and enjoying them. And, I now that I realize that, it was literally the opposite for Xbox, where I'm like, I want to enjoy these games and I'm just not. So, I'm just waiting for them to drop some of the bigger, more exciting games, man. Guys, if you could do me a favor, we have over 860 people here hanging out with me. Hit that like button to help this podcast out. It really does help me out more than you know. Space Gambler Jr. is saying, do you think no browser on PlayStation 5 is so there's no Game Pass? Honestly, yeah, that would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? I think because it's very clear that Sony was planning to have an internet browser on the PS5 because if I'm not mistaken, there's still a way to access it. It's just not that convenient at all, and most people don't know about it. It's kind of like a workaround. So it clearly tells you that the PlayStation 5 web browser was something that was built into it. And then I think once they saw that this was Microsoft's workaround was to create a browser based Game Pass solution, they're like, nope, nope, can't allow that. Because think about it, dude. Microsoft would love to have Game Pass on PlayStation, but PlayStation does not want Game Pass on uh, on their platform. Because when we talk about Game Pass, when we talk about the idea of the difference in pathways that Sony and Microsoft are taking, it's obvious that they're taking very different paths. There are a lot of people who are big believers in that Game Pass is in fact the future, and Microsoft is banking on they're betting on the right horse, and in the future, that's how we're going to access all of our games. And it's just a matter of time till PlayStation ends up adopting that. And the thing is, the harsh reality is, yeah, PlayStation is going to eventually have to have their own answer to Game Pass. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, dude, but PlayStation Now. But guys, come on, we have to be honest right now. Game Pass, whether you think it's a better deal or value than PlayStation Now, is irrelevant. Okay, that's for each person to decide for themselves. The truth of the matter is, though, is that PlayStation has not done nearly as good of a job promoting PlayStation Now as Microsoft has done promoting Game Pass. And I think that that's obvious why. It's because for PlayStation, PS Now is not the focus. It's not the priority. That doesn't mean it never could be. But even Jim Ryan stated not too long ago, and I'm very interested to learn about this, that they have a solution or an answer to Game Pass. That doesn't necessarily mean that Sony's suddenly going to reveal their own version of Game Pass, or basically say, hey, we're going to release all of our first party games day and date onto PlayStation Now in order to compete with Game Pass. It doesn't have to come in the form of basically doing the exact same thing, but they said that they do have an answer to it. And that very well could come in the form of the PlayStation Plus collection. There have actually been arguments made for the PlayStation Plus collection actually in some ways being just as valuable, or offering just as good of a value in some ways as Game Pass is. And I can see that argument, and you can clearly see that Sony's willing to experiment. But what I'm trying to say here is that Sony will not embrace the Game Pass model until the day comes where they are literally forced to do so, because they're making great money on their current model. And I think that a lot of people fail to understand this. It is a fact that Sony is making very good money off of their AAA video game sales. And I mean really good money. There's just no reason for them to kind of come out here and be like, okay, now we have to put all of our games day and date onto PlayStation Now or our own version of Game Pass or whatever, because there's no need. Microsoft, if you think about it, what they did with Game Pass was kind of needed. If you go back to last generation and you look at Xbox One and you look at how Microsoft did try to release more AAA quality games, Quantum Break, Sunset Overdrive, Rise, games that in my opinion were pretty good. Like, they weren't bad. I wouldn't say that they were on the same level as some of the games we've gotten from Sony. I mean, Rise was pretty good. I think that game was underrated. Sunset Overdrive was obviously a great game, but these games just didn't sell. And that's just a cold, hard fact, unfortunately, for Microsoft, is that these games did not sell. Unless it was Halo, Gears, or Forza, they didn't sell. And Microsoft was like, we got to change this up. And that's what they did. They basically said, we need to find a different way to make money off of games. And granted, Game Pass, I don't know whether Game Pass is actually profitable or not, but I don't doubt that it will eventually be profitable. I think right now with Game Pass, the question, when you look, again, just kind of coming back to this point of the difference between Sony and Microsoft's paths that they're taking, here's where it kind of goes. On one side, you have Sony and their AAA exclusives, and the argument is, well, the reason why PlayStation is charging $70 for a lot of their games now and they're not going to be putting them on a Game Pass like model anytime remotely soon, is because the quality is through the roof. And I've always argued in favor of this because with a price tag of $70, with a budget of 100, 200, 300 million dollars, with this idea that you're creating a big AAA exclusive that will be charged full price, there's an inherent need for quality. And so when people look at the other side with Microsoft with Game Pass, they're like, well, Game Pass is a great value, and we're going to be getting all of Microsoft's first party games and exclusive games to their ecosystem day one into Game Pass for just $10 a month. But the big question that still arises and it still persists with Game Pass is, what about the quality? Is the quality there? And granted, quality in many aspects is subjective, but in some cases, it's not that subjective, right? Like, I think we can all agree that Microsoft has yet to really release like a big new IP or just a returning IP that just has that same level of quality, polish, and just talent, poured into it. Um, that we see with a lot of Sony's games. Like, has Microsoft produced a game that can compete with Horizon Zero Dawn or the upcoming Horizon Forbidden West? Has Microsoft, have they put out a game yet that can compete with, The Last of Us Part 2 or even Days Gone? Have they put out a game that can compete with God of War and other upcoming titles that they have? I mean, people, they say, well, they released Gears 5 into Game Pass, but like, I'm not talking about Halo, Gears, or Forza because those games are always guaranteed. And I'm not denying that they have a lot of quality behind them, but they're just not, you see what I'm saying? Like there's an inherent disconnect. And the big thing that I think everybody's waiting for and why the Bethesda deal is such a big deal, whether or not they're going to be exclusive, regardless of whether they're exclusive, they're dropping in the Game Pass day one, right? And that is where I think, when you have to think about why Microsoft made this acquisition, I think that there's a plethora of reasons why Microsoft made this acquisition, but I think that Microsoft kind of realized that they're taking a chance with their own internal studios and even the studios that they acquired recently. And I think what Microsoft realizes, we need to try to compete with some of these titles that Sony is releasing, such as Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us 2, just these big games, man, these juggernaut games, God of War. We can't do that. Even Halo at this point is struggling to be viewed as that juggernaut game anymore, especially after their showcase. And so I think that when they looked at Bethesda, they're like, well, we can't guarantee that every Bethesda game is going to be massive, but we know that some will be, such as the next Elder Scrolls, the next Fallout, maybe Starfield. And maybe that's how Microsoft basically gets that new notoriety where it's like suddenly the conversation is shifting where it's like, oh, look, Microsoft released Starfield into Game Pass, even if it doesn't come out to like 2022 or whatever, but still like, and let's say that game gets like 9 out of 10s and it's just this, monolithic game where it's like, this is, Elder Scrolls in space and whatever, and people just love it. Suddenly, there you go. Microsoft says, see, we can put these big games into Game Pass. And I think until that day comes, and it could be quite some time, until that day comes and arrives, I don't think Sony's even considering a model like that. I don't think that that's even up for consideration. Something else that's worth noting is that the day Sony does decide to do that, and this is where I think Microsoft needs to be a little bit worried, just a little bit maybe. Not now, though, because I don't think that day's coming anytime soon. But what do you think's going to happen? Like, what if, just humor me here for a second. What if tomorrow Sony announces PlayStation Now Pass? I don't know what to call it. Just they basically announce that going forward, every single one of our games that are coming exclusively to the PlayStation platform are going to release day and date onto PlayStation Now. What do you think that's going to do? Like, Do you understand how in just like that, just like the flip of a switch, suddenly Game Pass is significantly less relevant than it once was? Because that's the power Sony's games have. I mean, like people would look at the value that Game Pass offers because Microsoft is putting these games into it, and it has a pretty decent third-party offering. But it's that right there. It's that, well, even though Microsoft doesn't produce many games that are on the same level as some of Sony's big AAA, big hitters, it's okay because we can get them through Game Pass for $10 a month. So what happens when Sony does that? You see what I'm saying? Suddenly, the value Sony's offering is significantly greater just due to the sheer quality of their games. So, I don't think PlayStation's going to do that anytime soon. And frankly, I hope they don't, because that is the big fear I've always had. And that is, when the need to, when the price point is no longer a question and it's just simply basically, hey, it's a $10 limit, that's what you have to worry about. Like, basically, can you make your game seem worth $10, a $10 subscription? That's concerning, because while I don't believe that most developers are looking at it that way, I've given Microsoft a lot of grief over this, but like, let's be honest, like right now, Undead Labs, they're developing State of Decay 3, one of the, I want to say big, I don't know if it's going to be big, but one of the games that Microsoft Studios is developing that I'm actually really excited for and I can't wait to see more of. I don't believe that they're sitting back in their studios being like, well, we can basically just half-ass this game because we have a $10 limit, like we're going to put it in the Game Pass and we just have to make it seem like it's at least worth $10. And that's fine. They're not doing that, like that's not how they're approaching development. However, I also don't think that it guarantees, because they're not going to be selling State of Decay 3 as a $70 AAA game, then there's a good chance it will not be that big, fully fleshed out AAA game that I always wanted a game like State of Decay to end up being, because it has so much potential. So I don't know. These are just different things that I've been thinking about when it comes to the divergent paths that both Sony and Microsoft are taking. And, we were just talking about the Bethesda acquisition and whether or not Microsoft's going to have a big reveal or a big conference, because, I think it leads to this conversation. It leads to, you look at, you look at Bethesda's games and you look at Game Pass and you think, oh, well, this could be a turning point for Microsoft potentially in the long run. Okay, so we are going to move on to the next topic, though. So, guys, if you could do me a favor, hit that like button to help the podcast out, show it your support. Let's see if we can get up to 400 likes, maybe up to 450 likes. But moving on to the next topic, I do want to talk about this just a little bit because it is one of the, more relevant things that popped up this week. And I know people are tired of hearing about it, but I'm just going to talk about it briefly. I have seen many of you bringing it up in the chat, and that is the recent VGC report about both Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid, and just apparently what Konami is planning to do with it. And so, as reported by VGC, Konami has decided to outsource not just Silent Hill to a prominent Japanese developer, which is most likely Sony's Japan studio, but they're also planning to, or they have already outsourced their other beloved IP, such as the Metal Gear Solid IP and the Castlevania IP, to other third-party publishers. I think that this is worth discussing for just a moment, because it's one of these situations where, again, like, I don't plan to continue to talk about this too much, simply because I am at the same point that you guys are at, where we should just wait to see if it ends up getting announced or not, if it ends up being real. I think the unfortunate side effect to this buildup is, if these games are actually real and they are in development at whatever studios when they're announced, I feel like that now all of these rumors, again, an unfortunate side effect has created just the expectations to be too high. That is, if you even believe they're real. So for me personally, I do believe that they're both real. I do believe that Sony's Japan studio is working on Silent Hill. And I do believe that Metal Gear Solid is going to come back. But I want you guys to think about this for a minute. Okay. I want to focus more on Metal Gear Solid because, to be honest, like, Metal Gear Solid is the franchise I care most about. Like, way more than Silent Hill, way more than anything. And what's interesting about the conversation surrounding Metal Gear Solid specifically is there's this large tidal wave of, we don't need Metal Gear Solid to come back at all because Kojima will no longer be involved. And I only half agree with this notion as a hardcore, longtime Metal Gear Solid fan. I say this because I obviously would want to see every Metal Gear game developed by Kojima, but Kojima made it clear quite some time ago that he was kind of done with Metal Gear, and a lot of the stuff he was doing after that was kind of just more fan service stuff. And you could tell he was doing it for the fans when he really just had a great desire to kind of move on and do something else. So then, the idea of getting some type of Metal Gear game without Kojima, I'm not completely against. But when you look at a game like Metal Gear Survive, Lawrence, I see you saying Metal Gear Online on MGS3 was sick. Dude, totally agree, man. I mean, we need that back, dude. Do you remember sneaking? You remember sneaking in Metal Gear Online 1, dude, where like you're playing his big boss and he just like plows through people with an M60, dude, that was the best. They had so many unique game modes. Metal Gear Online is the most underrated online component, both 1 and 2, that have ever existed. And because Konami sucks as much as they do, of course they were both shut down way sooner than they should have been, especially Metal Gear Online 2. Konami came out and they're like, hey, Metal Gear Online 2 is going to exist for 10 years minimum. Shut it down after 4 years because they didn't want to integrate with the PlayStation Network. They wanted to do their own separate thing, and it ended up ruining it because of hackers. And it was just, people just exploited the crap out of it. And that's how bad it got, that they had to literally shut down the servers. It was ridiculous, dude. Because, dude, Metal Gear Solid 4 and Metal Gear Online 2 were the reason why I got a PS3, man. Good times, man. Good times. And so, I really care about Metal Gear Solid. And, I think that, there were rumors surrounding this idea that Blue Point Games is remaking Metal Gear Solid 1, or they're like remastering and remaking the entire series or the trilogy, like MGS 1 through 4 or whatever. That's not a trilogy, but the saga, whatever. And I feel like if you think about it, if you are Konami, and if this VGC report is to be believed, VGC is claiming that their sources are telling them, and I think VGC is pretty reliable, like they're not just a random nobody on the internet, they're VGC. They have some credibility behind them. At least you would assume, right? They're claiming that their sources are telling them that Konami's executives, who are clearly some of the worst ever in gaming, they basically were against outsourcing at all until they released like Metal Gear Survive, and they saw just how horrifically it flopped, because that's how out of touch they are, where it's like they don't realize that, like, are you kidding me? Like, you guys just essentially violently kicked Kojima out, arguably the greatest asset that you had. You kicked him out, you canceled Silent Hill, and then you come out saying, here's the Metal Gear game you've all been wanting without Kojima, Metal Gear Survive. And that game made me sick, man. I think it made everybody sick. And it was destined to fail. And everybody was happy to see it fail. That was a game that people were so upset with that they would go out of their way to ensure it would fail. And it's crazy to think that they actually believed that was a good idea. So I think it gave them a reality check. That's basically what VGC is claiming, that they came out and they were like, okay, we're willing to outsource now because we clearly don't know what the hell we're doing. And so if you think about the timing of this, right? If Konami were to be willing to outsource, say, something like Metal Gear Solid to a third party, or maybe like another platform holder, and it was due because of Metal Gear Survive flopping. Well, Metal Gear Survive came out February 2018, so that was quite some time ago. So what this tells me is that this is something that maybe has happened, like if they did in fact outsource Metal Gear Solid, it happened quite some time ago. Maybe not that long ago. It's hard to say. These are things that we don't know if they're true, and we certainly don't have the details surrounding them. But it would make a lot of sense for a studio like Bluepoint to be given Metal Gear Solid in order to properly remake, like a PS5 version of Metal Gear Solid 1. Because just think about it. That's not a loss. I think that it would be ridiculous of Konami to basically say, we're going to hire some no-name, third-party developer to develop Metal Gear Solid 6. Everyone would hate that. Literally everyone would hate that. I think that there would be just some morbid curiosity, but everybody would hate it because that's not what people want. People either want to see Metal Gear Solid rested or either, do something that makes sense. Like, yeah, remake Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, and 4. Do a compilation. Give it to Bluepoint, if anything. Because Bluepoint, I mean, come on. When you think about remakes in general, who's the first studio that pops into your head? It's Bluepoint because they're the masters of it. And so, I won't lie. A lot of it really is wishful thinking on my part. I would love to see a Metal Gear Solid remake, even if it's just Metal Gear Solid 1, like a complete remake from the ground up. Although that's an interesting prospect because think about the gameplay of Metal Gear Solid 1. How would that be remade? Would they try to basically do what was done with Resident Evil 2 remake, but apply that to Metal Gear Solid 1? That would be interesting. And I think Bluepoint could pull that off. But I just think that that's basically the easiest win Konami can get. Not only just in terms of sales. Come on. How well would a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake or a compilation of one major remake of MGS1 and then maybe a compilation of remasters of 2, 3, and 4, how well would that sell on the PS5? That would sell like hotcakes, man. That's the easiest win Konami can get outside of Silent Hill. I think Silent Hill's a little bit more risky because you got to think about who's the studio developing it. And I've always, people really get on my case about these rumors when it comes to Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid. And I understand it is frustrating, and people, I think they get upset because they see how excited I get, just like I am right now, for the idea of a Metal Gear Solid remake. And then they take that and they basically look at it as, oh, well, I'm translating his excitement as it's happening. But it's not. We don't know. We do not know. Regardless of how likely I think it is, regardless of how much I think it makes a lot of sense, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. That doesn't mean it's real. All of this could literally be fantasy for all we know. I hope it's not, because I don't understand how something like Silent Hill at this point could be fantasy. It's even if nothing does come of it, I think we can all agree that there were certainly some conversations going on behind the scenes with these IP. But I want you to just think about when you think about Konami's IP, who is it that for years people have been saying, if you're going to give your IP to anybody, whether it's to sell your IP, which Konami I don't think would ever do, or license your IP, who should take it? Who's the first publisher that comes to mind? Do I even need to say it? I mean, chat, you're going to say it for me. It's the same publisher that the rumor actually surrounds because it makes the most sense. It makes the most sense. Silent Hill, and especially the Metal Gear Solid IP, have been synonymous with PlayStation. PlayStation has had multiple Metal Gear Solid games exclusively. Dude, Metal Gear Solid 4 was literally a PS3 exclusive, and it has yet to ever leave PS3 officially. So, you're saying the medium developers? I don't know, man. Blooper, I'm going to be real. It's nothing against them. Okay, but they're not the team to do a proper AAA Silent Hill reboot. They're just not. I don't think anybody can argue that. Maybe something smaller. Lawrence, you're saying, dog, MGS4 is perfect. Dude, MGS4 gets so much flack. What's so crazy is I remember when I played MGS4, I was like, this is the greatest game I've ever played in my life. And then when I started to see years later, when I was paying more attention to what other people were saying on the internet, and I started to see that a lot of people did not like MGS4, and then they point out all of these things that make it ridiculous. I'm like, yeah, it's completely ridiculous, but that's why it's so great. Dude, it's the most fan service game ever made. And that's why I could never complain about Metal Gear Solid 5. Because even though with Metal Gear Solid 5, it seemed like the story kind of took a back seat and it was, all about just the gameplay, which is fine. Bluebird team, is that what they're called? I don't know. But yeah, dude, I could never be mad at MGS5 because I'm like, dude, MGS4 gave me everything as a Metal Gear Solid fan that I could ever want from a game. And dude, I want to say this, talking about Metal Gear Solid 4, the sneaking suit mechanic is the single most underrated video game mechanic ever created. Dude, that was I'm sorry, man. Like, that was like one of the greatest stealth mechanics I've ever experienced. It was, they started with it in MGS3 with the camouflage, but dude, that sneaking suit with the mask, dude. Oh man, good times. And the fact, dude, they had a mode on Metal Gear Online 2, the sneaking game mode, where you would literally take that concept of laying on the ground and your suit would blend in and you would have to sneak through the battlefield. There was Team A and Team B fighting in like a team deathmatch style, and your goal as Snake was to try to knock out 3 players while they were battling without being noticed and take their dog tags to win. Dude, most underrated gameplay mechanic and game modes I've ever played in a game, dude. So ahead of its time. Don't even get me started. See, this is how like, I love Metal Gear, man. It ended too soon, the online. iSiler18, Kojima needs to have Metal Gear Solid back. Even Death Stranding feels like a Metal Gear Solid title. He just has that tone and atmosphere for his game. It's unique. I mean, dude, don't get me wrong. Like, I want Kojima back on Metal Gear, but I'm selfish. I'm a fan, and I'm not thinking from I'm not thinking from the mindset of a creator. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm not saying Kojima hates Metal Gear because he obviously doesn't, but if Kojima were to be honest and be like, I never, ever, ever want to make anything related to Metal Gear again because I'm just sick of it, I totally understand that, man. Like, I totally get that, but I'm selfish. I'm a Freeze Vamp. You're saying you're a hardcore fan. Yeah, I know, Freeze Vamp. I know that you're also holding out hope with me as well that we see the glorious return of Blue Point Games remaking Metal Gear Solid 1. I mean, something else that we do need to note here, and this is a fact. This is a cold, hard fact. This is not a rumor. A Metal Gear Solid movie is in the works. And you know what? I need to figure out, is Sony part of that? I'm pretty sure Sony is helping produce the Metal Gear Solid movie. Let me see. Metal Gear Solid movie, Sony. I'm pretty sure they're involved. So Oscar Isaac is attached to play Solid Snake in Jordan Vogt Roberts' action movie Metal Gear Solid, currently in development at Sony Pictures. See, there you go. See, this is what I'm not saying that, that proves that Metal Gear is coming back. No, it doesn't prove anything, but it is something that's like, okay, well, they're making a movie. It would make a lot of sense for them to maybe try to bring the game back, but you're saying Elden Ring PS5 exclusive. What's your opinion? It's definitely not. I don't think it could be. I only say that because if I'm not mistaken, Microsoft has the marketing rights to Elden Ring. I don't recall a game ever being announced, and then later, like for one platform holder having the marketing rights, and then later on becoming an exclusive. Let me see. So yeah, when it comes to the Silent Hill Metal Gear thing, like, guys, I get it. I understand that it's at a point where it's like we need to stop talking about it because it either upsets people or it's just like it almost is like a meme at this point, and I get that, but I do find it extremely fascinating that we are still getting reports on this. I mean, this is why it's like, we don't want to get our expectations too high. We don't want to overhype ourselves, but it is interesting to me that we are sitting here in February of 2021, almost a year after these rumors originally surfaced, and we're getting like a brand new report from VGC kind of throwing their hat in the ring and being like, yeah, this is what we've heard. They said that a prominent Japanese developer is the one working on the proper Silent Hill reboot, and all I can think to myself is, well, gee, I wonder who that could be. It might not be Sony. I think it would be shocking if it wasn't Sony at this point. I think it would be shocking if Silent Hill wasn't real at this point. I'd be more shocked at that than if it was real, you know? But MBG, do you think we will get Ragnarok this year? I'm not going to lie. The more I start to realize, the more the reality starts to set in that game development, I don't know if you guys have noticed, game development has basically hit a wall across the board. That's why there's no games releasing now. That's why there's like no games releasing next month and everything's like not kicking off until April and May. You know, it is, I think it's highly possible that it gets delayed. Like highly possible. I think it's further along in development. And I've said this before where I'm more inclined to believe that if God of War Ragnarok gets delayed, it's more because of a supply constraint where they want to leverage God of War Ragnarok to move a crap ton of PS5 units. And if they don't have enough to move, then, you know, they're not, you know, they're probably better off just delaying it until they do, because people will wait for that game. You know, it's not like people are gonna be mad if God of War gets delayed. It's so interesting to me that Sony put a date, a year with the announcement of Ragnarok, because like they're just not known to do that, you know, when they first announce games. So, you know, to be fair, they just put God of War Ragnarok 2021. For all we know, that could have meant first gameplay 2021. You know, I mean, obviously that's a little bit misleading, but that, hey, they did not say like, you know, releasing in 2021. It just said 2021. So I don't know. Like to me, it's looking more. Let me put it to you this way. Even if God of War could release this year, I don't think Sony needs it. And I think Sony would actually be wiser to save it, because Halo Infinite is a game that I have to believe Sony does take seriously, you know, because they're like, you know, this is Microsoft's flagship title. So I have to imagine that it's something they take seriously, and I don't think that they feel that they would need God of War to go up against Halo Infinite. Like if I were to ask you guys, like, you know, the big holiday 2021 season, there's going to be 2 juggernaut games releasing from Sony and Microsoft. We know Microsoft's juggernaut game is going to be Halo Infinite, and I think it'll turn out a lot better than it maybe would have thanks to that extra year of development time, which I'm sure is going a long way. But do you guys agree or disagree with the notion that I think Horizon Forbidden West would be more than enough? Like, I think Horizon Forbidden West is a juggernaut in it of itself that could certainly go toe to toe with Halo Infinite. Like, I think that like God of War Ragnarok would be like major overkill. I think God of War Ragnarok would be better suited to go up against maybe like Starfield when that's coming out, because I think that has the potential to be bigger than Halo Infinite. You know, or something in the future potentially. But then you also have to think, you know, maybe that's not how Sony views it. Maybe Sony views it as we have so many damn games in development. We have to release them at a decent cadence, or they're going to all end up releasing alongside one another. You know, how long can Sony keep a game that's finished kind of sitting on the, stove before they're ready to serve it? You know, I feel like that's just, hey, you're saying MBG, can I save my message later? Yeah, sorry, dude. It's hard to keep up with all of the messages. I'll try to do a Q&A before we end the podcast today. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of very interesting, speculation, I guess you could say, that, is to be had right now, and we're going to have later on about what do the lineups look like. What I know right now is that, and I'm not saying this to dunk on Xbox or anything, but I'm sorry, man. Like what Sony has coming, what the games that Sony has released within the launch of the PlayStation 5 on November 12th to June 11th with the release of Ratchet and Clank. I mean, dude, like they're doing great. They're doing great, man. At the launch, we got Demon Souls, which in my opinion was more than enough. But then we had Spider-Man Miles Morales, Sackboy. I guess we could count Godfall if you want to count that.
In January, we didn't really get anything, but I don't think we needed anything in January because, again, Sony had a strong launch lineup in November that carried, I think, PlayStation through December and January. And then in February, we get Destruction All Stars for free with PlayStation Plus, which is nice. Don't get me wrong. It's not a game that I think is even worth saying much about, but it's something, to hold us over. In in March, I hope we get Kenna Bridge of Spirits. I don't know if we will. There's a chance Sony might not have anything ready to go in March, which would be unfortunate. But then in April, we're looking at Returnal. Then in May, we're looking at Deathloop. Then in June, we're looking at Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And it just, as a PlayStation fan, as a PlayStation 5 owner, I feel like I'm eating good. It's a little bit sparse right now in general, but I think, again, everybody can agree with that. There's just no big releases happening. But I think Sony's been doing a good job in feeding PS5 owners, on a regular basis, and I think that they've been doing a really good job. And if they can hit their releases with Returnal, Deathloop, and Ratchet and Clank with no delays, then I think the first half of the PS5's first year being out is looking pretty good. And I think the second half is going to look significantly stronger when they have more units available to sell. Sarah Holmes, you're saying GT7 is enough. Sony developed RDNA 2 with, I guess what you're trying to say is with a partnership with AMD. Yeah, I'm done with, dude, I am done with the RDNA talk, man. Like, I basically, had a mini freak out in the first 45 minutes of this because it's just, who cares? Like, who cares? Like, I care enough to make some videos on it when it's relevant, when there's some rumors, when there's some official news, and give my opinion on it. Outside of that, it's over, dude. Like, no one cares at this point. People have their games, they have their they have their consoles, and I'm sure that at this point anybody who has bought a PS5 knows exactly why they bought a PS5. Anybody who bought a Series X knows exactly why they bought one. And anybody who plans to buy one of these consoles in the future knows exactly why they're planning on buying one. And I just have a feeling that RDNA has very little to do with that, ultimately. I tell you right now, man, I absolutely was not thinking about RDNA when I was playing through Demon Souls. Even when I hop on Call of Duty sometimes for a couple games at night, game looks and runs great on my PS5, still not thinking about RDNA. Frankly, the only time I think about it is when I'm making content on it because it's something, I always try to keep the content flow here on the channel, but it's over, man. It's over. Like, if you want to believe that Xbox is like stepping on the throat of PlayStation and PlayStation fans, and we're over here like suffocating and starving and regretting our PlayStation 5 purchases, and we're crying because we don't have this and we don't have that, by all means, go ahead and believe what you want to believe, man. Your truth is your truth. Doesn't have to be mine. All I can do is share my experience, and I got to tell you, I've been enjoying the hell out of my PS5. The weakest aspect of the PlayStation 5 so far for me has been the storage, which is something that Sony desperately needs to start talking about, hopefully soon, because yeah, dude, the hard drive gets taken up quick, man, and there needs to be some more solutions. But other than that, the weakest aspect of the PS5 probably so far has been Destruction All-Stars. Not that I have a problem with it, but just it's like, yeah, no, I didn't buy a PS5 or Destruction All-Stars. Because I don't want people to think it's perfect. It's not perfect, but I mean, my first 3 months with the PS5 it's been good to me, man. It's been really good to me. I can't sit here and say that, I'm feeling like I made some kind of mistake buying the PS5. I can't sit here and say that, oh man, like I definitely should have went with the Series X. I just don't feel that way, Um, I feel that I bought the PlayStation 5, and the number one reason behind it was because I was confident in the games that Sony was going to bring, not only at the launch of the PS5, but when they had their future of gaming events. Like, they made it clear, like, they have some pretty big and exciting games coming in the first year of the PS5's life cycle. And, the games I'm seeing Sony talking about, man, they just, they get my juices flowing, like they look just more exciting to me, man. It's as simple as that. So I can't say that it's been bad. Sir Holmes, you're saying Xbox equal Proud Boys. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not trying to, come on. Let's keep it gaming here, man. All right, we don't need to take things that far. It's video games at the end of the day. Even the most hardcore Xbox fans, even the ones that try to drag my name through the mud, I want to believe that at the end of the day, we all just want to play some great games. I think that's all it comes down to, and I understand that we've reached a point where things are a little bit quiet, and I understand that Xbox fans, they need to feel some of them are searching for vindication, and I understand that. It can be frustrating sometimes, it can be annoying at times, but some of them really want vindication. And, if that's what they want and that's what matters to them most, then sure. But for me, it's just, it doesn't matter at this point, the whole power narrative. Again, I'm not going to pretend that I didn't report on it or partake in that conversation, but I think most of you can back me up when I say that I've always made it clear that it's just one piece of the pie here, and it's really not the piece that anybody's looking to eat at the end of the day. It's just not. Some people. Because we always knew that the PS5 was going to be a powerful console, right? Like, we always knew that it was going to be very capable. It's just sometimes, you start to question, well, just how capable is it? Just how powerful is it? Because there's all these different narratives that end up popping up. I remember last year when we were doing the deep dive with Mark Cerny and the PS5, or the road to PS5, there were all these rumors that were coming out that the PS5 is and there's people still saying, oh, it's a half-baked console. It's not as capable, it's going to perform significantly less than the competition. And the reason why, it mattered more then than it does now, because we didn't know. We didn't see games running on the PS5 when these narratives were being written up by individuals on the internet. We didn't see how games were going to look or anything. And now we know, and we see it for ourselves. And I think most people are pretty impressed. Honestly, I think most people like what they see with the PS5. I think most people who have played a game on the PS5 will tell you that it looks and runs great, man. That's what it is. But let's see here. Let's see what other topics we have left. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to mention this to you guys as well, and I feel like it kind of falls into this. I did a poll recently asking people to vote on what their PlayStation 5 experience has been like so far. And these are the options I gave. Great, practically flawless, good, but some minor issues, okay, could be better, bad, not enjoying it at all, and still trying to buy a PS5. And there was 25,000 votes, which is a pretty decent amount for sure. And 34% said that it's great and practically flawless. 19% said good, but some minor issues. 4% said okay, but could be better. Only 1% said bad, not enjoying it at all. And a whopping 42% said still trying to buy a PS5. And what this tells me is two things. It tells me that most people who do have a PS5 seem to be really enjoying it. But it also tells me that the vast majority of people are still having a struggle buying a damn PS5. People who want one just simply can't get one. So crazy. Let me see. So here's another topic I wanted to discuss. Because I think this one's going to be, I don't think this one's going to be that interesting. I think that this is going to play a pretty significant role on the channel later this year. And that is the glorious, or maybe not so glorious, return of E3. Now, I'm a little bit late to this one, but essentially the ESA has come out and they said, look, we're coming back with E3 this year, and it's going to be a digital event. It's worth noting that Jeff Keighley is not being a part of E3 actively, and he's doing his own thing, the Summer Games Fest, once again. So there's a little bit of competition there, which I think is interesting. And, I've seen some people kind of asking, is Sony going to return to E3? And I'm going to tell you right now, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Sony is never doing E3 again. I think that that's more than clear. Sony's going to do their own event, and it wouldn't surprise me if their own event completely overshadows E3 entirely. Even Microsoft could do their own event, and I think it's going to overshadow E3. But the question I have for you guys is like, are we still excited for E3? You know, like, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, if E3, when it does happen this year, I'm going to stream it. I'll be excited for it. I just hope it's not terrible, you know? That's the only thing I hope. I just hope it's not terrible. I hope it's not super cringy. But I don't, you know, I think it'll be interesting to see how many publishers are basically like, yeah, we're not participating in E3, because if you look at 2020, pretty much all publishers, major publishers, did their own thing. They had to. There was no E3. And I think that basically set a new expectation, a new precedent where it's like, this is what they're going to be doing going forward. Sir Holmes, you're saying games are running last gen engines. We need new PS5 engines. Hashtag end of this year. Yeah, dude, it's true. Like, I think that, what Insomniac said about the PS5 is certainly true, where they said, look, we're just scratching the surface. I mean, there's a lot of people who say, like, look, you gotta wait until, the tools are ready and whatnot, and until developers really start to wrap their heads around all of these RDNA 2 features. But one thing I've heard that, and I don't know, again, I need to make this clear that I don't know how much truth there is to this. I would have to look into it because it's just not fresh in my mind. But I do remember hearing previously that, one of the biggest things that Mark Cerny talked about with the PS5, which is interesting, is the geometry engine. And we already know how capable that is. I think people tend to forget that Epic Games literally tailored their engine, one of the world's most popular game engines, that being Unreal Engine 5, to the geometry engine, as well as I don't know if it's the geometry engine specifically, but to the PS5's architecture. People forget that, and if I'm not mistaken, apparently the geometry engine in the PS5 is like hardly being utilized. Like, it's like barely being used right now, because it is something that developers have to fully like learn and get used to. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but it wouldn't surprise me, because Insomniac Games themselves did say that they're just scratching the surface. And I find it fascinating that they're the ones saying this, because when I see Spider-Man Miles Morales and Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, I'm like, these games look damn impressive, and you're going to tell me that you're just scratching the surface? That's pretty exciting. And I believe them. I don't see why they would lie about that. Leo Jimmy, you're saying, question MBG, Last of Us and Uncharted were mega games. What will replace them on PS5? Well, I think I think Uncharted is going to come back. I think it's just not going to be Naughty Dog. But I think Naughty Dog is basically going to announce a new IP. I think The Last of Us will continue in the form of it will continue in the form of a multiplayer game with the factions. I think it'll be more than just the factions mode for sure, but they have a multiplayer game that they're working on in the Last of Us universe. So I think that's how The Last of Us is going to continue. And I think that they're working on a new IP that's going to basically attempt to push the PlayStation 5 to its absolute limit and show other developers how it's done. I think Naughty Dog, they have like this ICE team or something. Like Naughty Dog, I forget what the name of the team is called. I think it's called that, but they had this team that's literally their sole job is to like get down to the nitty gritty of the hardware that they're working on and push it to the limit. And they have an entire team dedicated to doing that. I mean, I think that we can all agree that, yeah, they do. Look at what they did with The Last of Us Part 2 on the PS4 Pro. So, I mean, ICE Team, yeah, that's what they're called. And so, look, we all have our opinions on The Last of Us Part 2. It's water under the bridge at this point, but I will tell you, if there's one thing I am very excited about, is seeing what Naughty Dog and their talent can do with the PS5 hardware. I think it's going to be something that's like, just blows people away. I mean, they do it every time. They do it every time. Oyak Rumi, you're saying, for the people that are still trying to buy a PS5, it's like finding the golden ticket in Willy Wonka. And what's up, man? Yeah, what's up, Oyak Rumi? I appreciate you being here. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. It is like, I really have to wonder when the whole PlayStation 5 supply constraint thing is going to start to ease up. It's lingering way longer than I thought it would. Like, I did not think that it would last this long, but the problem will be solved eventually. It's just, unfortunately, the reality is starting to send that it might not be until uh it might not be until 2022. And people are like, that's crazy. Like, what about holiday of this year? Well, even if they do manage to greatly increase production of these consoles from, from AMD and whatnot for the second half of 2021, they're still going to get eaten up instantly because you're approaching the holiday season. And that's when the consoles really start to fly off the shelves, especially if the demand is still not even remotely satiated as we approach the holiday. Salvazard06, you're saying MBG, think about this. The Order 1886 sequel made by Naughty Dog would be awesome, right? Dude, that would be incredible. You guys know I'm an advocate for the Order 1886. I understand, and I've never denied the criticisms that the game has received, but I think a lot of people agree with me when I say, like, the amount of potential that game offered, like untapped potential, like it was doing some great things, but it was really lacking in some areas and needed some tweaks in others. Dude, it always depresses me to think about the Order 1886 because I think the reality is, dude, we're never getting a sequel to that. And if you played that game, it set up such a cool world with cool characters. Like, Galahad was an awesome character. That whole group was awesome. I know that there was a lot of QTE fights, but still, it was just awesome, man. And the way, especially the way the game ended, and to think that we're just never gonna get anything from that, pretty depressing. Joshua Reese, you're saying, what are you playing to fill the void before Eternal? Um, well, as you've noticed, I've had B-roll footage recently or older gameplay. Honestly, I've been playing Destruction All-Stars a lot because I decided I was going to try to platinum the game. And I'm at that point, as I often get to with multiplayer platinums, where, oh, it turns out that, like, it's going to be, there's like one or two trophies that are just absolutely ridiculous and are either going to require me, like, I don't even think you can boost in the game if you wanted to, but I had to get insanely lucky. And I'm essentially going to have to dump 100, 200, maybe 300 hours into trying to get this specific trophy to pop because the requirement is ridiculous. I'm gonna rant about that in a second. Ivanel C is what I will call you. Say, hey, MBG, greetings from Portugal. Finally, I got my PS5. Great gaming console. It's true next gen. Enjoying Dirt 5 and Control Ultimate Edition. Well, I'm happy to hear that, man. I've seen a lot of people come to be like, come to me and be like, I finally got my PS5, and I'm like, that's awesome, man. Like, I did not realize honestly how lucky I was to be able to secure a PS5 when I did. I'm glad I did, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm also grateful that I've had pretty much no issues with it, knock on wood here. And, it's just great to see more people get it because the day's going to come, man, where, like, literally, like, I mean, come on, let's be real. The day's going to come where over 100 million people have PS5s, and there's going to be some great games coming down the line. And so it's always cool to see people actually, during a time like this when it's seemingly impossible, actually able to get one. So glad to hear that, man. And it's also crazy. It's always mind blowing to me when I, see people that are listening to me from, like, just all across the world. Always crazy. Hey, Freeze Vamp, you're saying you won't eat 5 cheeseburgers from McDonald's only if you see Metal Gear Solid Remake on a live show. I don't know what to make of that, man. You're asking MVG, are you going to talk about the lawsuit? I would, but I don't know what to say about it. Stick drift. It's an issue. It's always been an issue. It sucks that it's still around. Does Sony deserve to get sued? I don't know. I don't have stick drift. I'm grateful I don't. But let me rant really quick I am kind of a trophy hunter. Okay. I'm not a hardcore trophy hunter, but when I approach a game, I do approach it with the idea, like, I don't know, it gets in my head. And I'm curious to see if any of you guys are like this, or like it messes with my perception of actually playing a game. I wish trophies and achievements never were created because I miss the days when you would just play a game and anything extra you wanted to do in that game, it was like purely just genuine. Like, I love this game so much. I want to 100% it. I want to do this. I want to do that, you know? And I wish that we could get back to that. And I know people are like, oh, you could just ignore trophies. And it's like, maybe that's easy for you to say, but I can't do it, man. I wish Sony would allow, like, they would implement something where you can literally just completely disable trophies at all on the PlayStation 5, where you could just hit like off and they just don't exist. There's no trophy lists, there's no trophy section, nothing. Like, it's as if they just don't exist because they mess with me, you know? Ryan, you're saying Warhammer Darktide 4K, anyone? I mean, I get like this because when I play a game, I don't always approach it with, okay, I got to worry about getting all of the trophies. But I'll play a game, I'll get through it and I'll see, okay, I've unlocked like 50, like 40 or 50% of the trophies just playing the game. Then I just get this sudden itch where I'm like, but maybe I should try to get all of them. And it basically starts to create this unhealthy uh perception in my mind where it's like, if I don't 100% this game, then I didn't get everything out of it that I should have. And I need to know, am I the only one with that feeling? And it ruins, sometimes it ruins games for me, man. And I hate it because it's like, you're saying, let's be real, no one cares about your trophy collection. You're right, dude. You're right. No one cares, but I care. And that's the problem. You're saying, same MBG, I have a love-hate relationship with the trophies. I never had a care in the world on PS1, 2, and part of 3, but you got to admit, trophies do get you to play the game longer. Yeah, they do work. They do work, dude, in getting you to play longer. And so, like, I'm playing Destruction All-Stars, and I just thought to myself, you know what? I started looking over the trophies. I'm like, these actually don't look too difficult. So maybe I'll try to go for it. MBG, did you see the new trailer for the Mortal Kombat movie? I saw some of it. I got to watch the whole thing. Is it good? Does it look like it's going to be good? I haven't seen the whole thing yet. Petition for MBG to platinum The Last of Us 2, LOL. No, dude. That just sounds like torture to me. I don't want to go through that again. No, I mean, I considered it, but you know what it is too? I hate collectibles in games. I hate it, dude. Only because I know for a fact that if there are collectibles in a game, then there's a trophy for getting all of those collectibles, which inevitably means that if I want to platinum it, I'm now going to have to watch a guide, and I don't feel like doing that. And then you could say, well, you could try to get the collectibles on your own. And it's like, I also don't want to spend 200 hours trying to find all of these collectibles organically. A lot of these, I think, collectibles are inserted into games these days, full well knowing that there's going to be guides for them. Oyakurumi is saying, you and me, brother, I'll play the game and I have to search for all the achievements and trophies. Yeah, dude. It's tough, man. It's like a mental block that gets in the way. And, I'm depressed now because it's like it does add a little bit more purpose too. I gotta admit, like, that's one thing I do like. Like, for example, if there were no trophies in Destruction All Stars, I literally would have stopped. I'm like rank 88 in Destruction All Stars, which should tell you how much I've been playing it. And I probably would have stopped at like rank 18 or 20 if there were no trophies. But I was like, okay, it like added this new purpose for me to play the game, and there is a sense of enjoyment as well. Like when you pop that trophy and you unlock it. But it all goes south. It all goes south when, again, you run into those trophies where it's like, I am probably not going to get this now. And I hate this game. And I hate that I even tried to do this. And it leaves you with this this feeling of failure. And I hate that. MH, you're saying, I am now a happy owner of a PS5, getting my ass handed to me in Demon Souls, but I will not quit. I will not surrender. Yeah, dude, stick with it. Demon Souls is really tough. Like, dude, when I stream Demon Souls, you can go back and watch it too. I think it was the second stream I did. I got stuck on the armored spider, I think, boss is what it was. Dude, I spent 3 hours live trying to defeat that boss. And it's because I got so much in my own head while streaming it that, like, I suck at this game. I suck. That, like, yeah, I ended up sucking. Dude, the second I was done the stream, the next day, I booted up. I, like, beat him in my first try. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's because the game gets in your head, man. It messes with your head. That's what the Souls games do. They kind of like whittle you down and beat you down. And yeah, congrats on the PS5, man. Man, I kind of wish I could cut out like the first half or like first 45 minutes of this podcast because I feel bad. Like, again, it was cathartic for me, but I feel bad that I basically just was like complaining and whining for the first 45 minutes because I told myself I wasn't going to do that. And then I just ended up doing it because I like this so much better. Like, I like talking about games. I like talking about our enjoyment, all the little things, all the big things. And I'm trying to get away from all the nonsense, you know? So hopefully anybody who's made it this far in the podcast, those who watch after the fact, forgive me. And those who are listening, forgive me for being so whiny about it. And, yeah, I really, you're saying you already timestamped it. Yeah, I'm not going to get rid of it, dude. I appreciate that, by the way. I appreciate you doing the timestamps. Like, really, it's saves me a lot of time, dude. Huge shout out to Devil Shooter 126 for doing that, by the way, each week. October's very own. You're saying, I know I bring this up. Also, where is Sir Speaks a Lot today? He didn't mention the feet pics. I'm disappointed in him. October's very own. I know I bring this up every time, but speaking of remakes, we need a Twisted Metal one. The show has casted Sweet Tooth. Dude, I totally forgot that there was a show for Twisted Metal. What the hell? That's so bizarre. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, if they're going to do a show, why not do a game, right? Like, it doesn't have to be massive. Dude, tell Lucid to make a Twisted Metal. Right? If you're going to have them do Destruction All-Stars, now, next up, let's do Twisted Metal. You know, Destruction All-Stars is happy-go-lucky. Everything's bright and colorful and great and nice. Let's get dark now. Let's go to Twisted Metal and get dark and twisted, right? That was cringy. I don't know why I said that. Salvazardo6, you're saying MVG PlayStation Now plus PlayStation Plus equals PlayStation Experience. PS Now plus PS Plus plus PS Collection equals PlayStation Experience Plus. Dude, why are you making me read this? As a Game Pass competitor, feel free to use my idea, Sony LOL. I'm going to assume you didn't realize how difficult that was going to be to read when you typed that, but yeah, I can see that, man. So basically you're saying take PlayStation Now, then add in PlayStation Plus, and then add in PlayStation Collection, and then call it the PlayStation Experience Plus, which will be a Game Pass competitor. That's a good idea, actually. I think that, yeah, that's the thing, man, is I don't know what, Sony says that they have a, sorry, Freeze Vamp, you're saying that I skipped through 2 messages. Don't take it personally, man. It's just really difficult for me to read everybody's messages. Also, I got to kind of spread it out as well, you know? Let me see. Josh Z, you're saying I platinumed all 7 God of War games. Proudest feeling ever. That is impressive, Josh. I got to say. That is impressive. I probably should have platinumed God of War 2018. I don't know why I didn't. I don't know. I was thinking about maybe doing like a God of War stream in March if Sony doesn't release any new games. I'm waiting to find out. Wait, you're saying Will Arnett as Sweet Tooth? Is that real? Is that real, dude? Because that's interesting. I don't know much about Sweet Tooth. I just know the aesthetic of Sweet Tooth. But I don't know. I was thinking about doing a God of War PS5 live stream. Did it freeze up on you guys, by the way? My stream here says it froze. I don't know. Maybe it's just frozen on my end. But I think it really depends on whether or not Sony announces. Because, like, we have March. It's a long month. And as of right now, there are no PlayStation games, as far as I'm aware, releasing in March. The only game that seems likely to release in March, but as we get closer to it and we still have no release date, is Kenna Bridge of Spirits. And so I want to know if that's going to release or not, because if it does, then I'll stream that. But if nothing ends up getting a release date and it seems clear that Sony doesn't have anything lined up for March, then maybe I'll stream God of War. Because I realized, like, I never did stream that game, you know, and the idea of streaming it on the PS5, playing it at that, you know, I was watching Digital Foundry talk about it, and it's like seeing it, it's like, wow, yeah, it's like a new experience. Like, these games literally feel like a new experience when you're playing them at 60 FPS. Like, I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true, man. Like, they're just 60 FPS. Ever since I upgraded to the PS5 and every game I've played is at 60 FPS, it's like, yeah, there's no going back. Now I understand why PC players laughed at console owners last generation, because they're like, dude, you're playing in 30 FPS, you're missing out. I mean, I appreciate that Sony gives us in their games these fidelity modes at 30 FPS, but I just cannot do it. Like, when I'm standing still in the game, like when I was playing Demon's Souls, anytime I would go into the fidelity mode, I would just stand still and I would appreciate, wow, like this is an incredible image right now at native 4K. And then I would move and I'm like, oh my God, it's horrendous. Get it off the screen. And then I would switch it back to the performance and I'm like, all right. And even then, what I've noticed specifically with Demon Souls and Spider-Man, guys, is when you play, like when you go compare the fidelity mode and the performance mode, maybe it's just me, but like I have a difficult time seeing a visual difference. Like it's kind of crazy. Um, I feel like Sony just adds the fidelity mode just to be able to say this is native 4K. But in reality, like whatever the techniques that they're using for their games, to make like I mean it's like a DLSS like technique, upscaling whatever. These techniques that we hear about all the time. I mean, you can, if you look really, really hard and really close, you can see a slight difference. But when you're playing, it's like frame rate is everything, dude. That's what I've learned, man. That's what I've learned. Like I can see I'm using the word disturbing, a disturbing difference between a game running at 60 FPS and 30. Like when I play games at 60 and then I go back to 30, it makes me feel like I'm going to be sick at this point. Like I can't look at it, you know? And I understand that some people can't tell. And I feel like it's because your eyes adjust. Like when I played Days Gone, when I played God of War on the PS4 Pro, I was playing these games at 30 FPS and your eyes adjust to it. But once you see it bump up to 60 and then you try to go back, like it's like unsee it. Like for me personally, like I can't unsee it. Yeah, the checkerboard rendering, they do such a good job with it that like I have a hard time seeing a difference. And so yeah, it's been great. Uh, you know, I I want to just say, yeah, I don't know if I doubt many developers listen to my podcast, but I'm going to complain about it anyway. Developers who are, I don't know like who is in charge. Like I don't know if there's like dedicated teams like, okay, you're the team that comes up with the trophy and achievement lists for our game. I'm sure that comes like lastly in development. For the love of God, please reconsider some of the trophies and achievements and the requirements that you are putting into your games. Okay? Because a great example is Lucid. I don't know, Lucid, if you're listening to this, any developers there, I don't know who made your trophies for this game. I can tell you that most of them are totally fair and they're great and they're balanced. There's this all right, so for those who played Destruction All Stars, there's this character named Ratu, I think, and she has this vehicle, right, where you gotta play in a game and you charge up your special vehicle. It's kind of like Titanfall, like you charge up your Titan and it drops in. It's like that, but with special vehicles. And what her vehicle does is you get into the special vehicle, then you have to slam multiple opponents to build up to your special. Then you can release your special, which is like a big explosion, an area of effect that pretty much if you're caught in it, it destroys your vehicle. And what they want you to do in this trophy is they want you to destroy every single player in a room with your special in like 4 minutes, because that's how rough 4 to 5 minutes. That's roughly how long the game lasts. And like if you play this game and you get into it and you start to realize like how ridiculous that requirement is. And like that's pretty much going to be the trophy that stops me from getting the platinum. And it's like, who made that trophy? I need to know, because clearly they didn't play the game. And if they didn't, and if they did, they must have just put that trophy in there to troll. So just have to do my little rant there. Developers, please make sure you're considerate. Leo Jimmy, you're saying Werewolf Apocalypse Earthbound, horrible game, but fun. 96%. Got to go through the whole game to collect all the collectibles. Damn trophies. Yeah. I mean, it's like one thing if there's like busy work, like trophies, like, oh, okay, I got to go back and grind this or do that. But, it's stuff like that where it's like, come on, man. Like I'm tired of these ridiculous, impossible requirements for achievements that are just, it's so like luck based. And I've seen that like, you can play like the Gridfall game mode and whatnot, but it's like, even then it still requires a tremendous amount of luck. But anyway, there was one last topic I want to discuss quickly with you guys before we move on to a brief Q&A, and that has to do with, it's actually simple. I'm basically just going to ask you guys in the chat, what upcoming games are we looking forward to playing? Whether it's PS5 games, Xbox games, doesn't matter. I just want you guys to tell me what games you're looking forward to. Because I thought about this because that's what I've been thinking recently. Like, I'm noticing that there's just so little to play without going back and playing older games that have already released. And, I'm a fan of like the bigger game releases. But Lawrence, you're saying Resident Evil 8. For sure, dude. For sure. Village, yeah. I'm very excited for Resident Evil 8. I did play the demo, by the way, and it was really good. Really good. Outriders. Yeah, that's a game I'm looking forward to as well. Nobody's really talking about that game, but it looks like it could be a sleeper hit. I know that it's like a multiplayer game. You can play it single player, I believe, but that looks pretty good. Guilty Gear, Halo Infinite, Diablo 2, Metal Gear Solid. Which Metal Gear Solid? Yeah, I know. I'm excited for that too, but you're saying Resident Evil Village, Monster Hunter Rise, Ratchet and Clank, The Ascent, Horizon and Kenna, Silent Hill, Resident Evil 8, Elden Ring, Kenna, God of War Ragnarok. Yeah, Biomutant. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I forgot about that. GT7, Final Fantasy 16, Nier Replicant, Stray, Star Wars, Ninja Gaiden, Persona 5 Royal, The Last of Us 3, Crossfire, Mario Golf, Parasite Eve, Hellblade 2. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Deathloop, Black Myth Wukong. Isn't that game like not coming out till like 2023 though? Back for Blood. Yeah, there you go. Max Payne. Can we please get another Max Payne? Returnal. Crimson Desert. Little Devil Inside. Ray Space. Skyward Sword HD. Mortal Shell. Yeah, isn't Mortal Shell coming to PS5? I wanted to play that on PS4. I never got a chance. Project Athia. Alan Wake 2. Is that a thing? GTA 6. The Mortal Kombat movie looks promising. Hold on. I missed this. So you said the Mortal Kombat movie looks promising, except Scorpion, they didn't do well with him. Yeah, I'll have to see that trailer. Horizon VR. Yeah, too many. Volcano High. Yeah, I don't know about that. Dying Light 2. Yeah, where's that game? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games to look forward to. I was just interested. Pragmata. Yeah, that game's not coming for some time. You're saying Take-Two spoke about how they are heavily invested in telling single-player games. I hope so. Far Cry 6. Yeah, I forgot about that one as well. The Harry Potter game. Sons of the Forest. Saying MBG for now, I have Resident Evil RE2 Remake looking for trophies until Returnal released. Yeah, that's a great game, dude. RE2 Remake is great. All right, yeah, I was just genuinely interested. Overwatch 2 for the PS6. I was just genuinely interested to see what you guys were looking forward to because, I was kind of like doing that today. I was going over the game. I'm looking forward to these are the games that just come to the forefront of my mind, I think, in release order. Kenna, again, if it comes out in March. I'm thinking it's not, though. But I'm looking forward to Outriders. I'm looking forward to Returnal. I'm looking forward to Resident Evil Village, which I'm actually really excited for Resident Evil Village because it feels like it's been forever since I played a proper horror game. I'm looking forward to Deathloop, Ratchet and Clank, Back for Blood. Those are the games that kind of come to my mind. Callisto Protocol. Yeah, I'm very excited for that as well, but that's going to be quite some time. All right, guys. Well, we are approaching the 2 hour and 20 minute mark in the podcast. So from this point forward, let's move on to a Q&A. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask. I'm going to have to slow down the chat though, just to make it easier for me to actually read what's being asked. MBG, can you talk about how Elden Ring has been rated in the UK? Really? Is this true? Nuh-uh. I didn't see anything about that. I would, because that's a big deal if true. I gotta look this up now. See, just Elden Ring. See if there's any news. I don't know where you're seeing that, man, because I'm looking at, I don't know, Google News here, and I don't see anything. Elden Ring release date leak could be a major disappointment. Okay, I think that's a clickbait article because they're not providing anything. what does MBG stand for? It stands for Muscle Bound Gamer. That's, that's the name I came up with when I first made the channel. Then I put a little bit of thought into it, not too much though. Hey MBG, if all the PS5 exclusives come out to PC after 1 or maybe 2 years with, will you be okay with that? At this point, yeah. Because, dude, I mean, Horizon came to PC. Apparently, it didn't do very well. So I don't know that that's something Sony's going to pursue. Maybe you could argue that maybe it was because it was too late. Maybe it was because everybody who played Horizon went out and bought a PlayStation to play it. But I mean, 1 to 2 years, yeah. I don't think it matters because I mean, honestly, like if you're excited for a game that's releasing exclusively on a console, like, I mean, actually excited enough, like you want to really play it, you're going to buy that console within the first year of it being out to play it. Who wouldn't do that? Some people do wait though. So I don't know. MBG 4K 60 FPS or 1080p 60 plus ray tracing. Honestly, for me, 4K 60. I like ray tracing, but I don't know, man. It's not as appealing to me as I thought it would be. Like games that have implemented, it's like, oh, that's impressive, but I mean, I don't know. I like that crispness of a higher resolution as well, though. So ideally both, but honestly, if I had to choose, I just don't like playing games in 1080p anymore. I mean, it's okay, and I'll do it when I have to, but I definitely prefer a crisper resolution, honestly speaking. I think I would trade ray tracing for a crisp resolution. MBG, talk about what is taking Nintendo so long on Breath of the Wild 2. I have no idea. Honestly, I don't follow Nintendo too much, so I can't really give much insight to it. MBG, I'm watching Godzilla King of Monsters. Nice. How does Mrs. MBG feel about MBG's gaming hobby? Oh, she fully supports it. We were just playing Overcooked 2 the other night. She's a gamer too. She's not like a hardcore gamer, like we are here, but totally supports it, Hope you're good, MBG in chat. I really want a game. LOL. Yeah. Do you think we in the PlayStation community were far too dismissive of Gears Tactics? It's not my kind of game, but it's critically acclaimed, respected IP, and crucially, it took major creative chances. Yeah, probably. To be honest, it was a game that I didn't even pay attention to because I feel like, yeah, I'm with you. It's not my type of game, but I have heard good things about it. You're saying, where's the face cam? Need the face cam. I took a break with the face cam for now. I don't know. It's just easier for me to talk more naturally when I know people are not watching me. I feel like that's just how it is, but we'll probably do the face cam on and off at times. I don't think people care that much. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like when I turn on my face cam, I notice a massive increase in viewership. I don't notice a massive decrease either, Do you have any tips on how to get a PS5? Frankly, no, I don't, because I'm not looking for one and I'm not following it. But I know that there are like some dedicated YouTube channels and especially people on Twitter who like that's their forte. Like they're like, let me give you tips. So I don't know who they are and I can't even recommend you to anybody. But I mean, honestly, I'd say just, I think that somebody told me like there's like certain Discord servers or Reddit threads or just basically like these communities where it's like they are very helpful when you follow them. Dieter Ruse, you're saying can give the face a break by turning on the foot cam. Yeah. I mean, dude, that would be, no. That's forever going to be a running joke on this channel. Thanks to a certain somebody. MBG, what's your hardest platinum? Mine was Star Wars Battlefront 2. I don't know, man. I would have to go back and look at my platinums. I'm sure one of them was particularly difficult. Death Stranding wasn't difficult, but it was time consuming. My most difficult platinum. I don't know. I'd have to go look, man. Saying we missed your face. Yo, MBG, do you think Sony will reveal Savage Starlight? I don't know what that is. So I can't tell you, unfortunately. MBG Post Malone of Gaming. I don't know about that. MBG, what do you mean by Sony concentrating about selling the console? Will they forget Metal Gear Solid? No. All I really mean by that is like Sony their one of their biggest priorities and goals right now is to sell a lot of PS5s. It's crucial to their business and their business model with their AAA games. The problem is they just don't have enough right now. The demand is fine. The pipeline of games is fine. I can tell you that. The problem truly is that they want to sell these consoles and they can't. And so that, depending on how long this problem lingers, it could ultimately determine, maybe the delay of some games. MBG, why are you saying the Xbox Series X outperforms the PS5 in Hitman? Clearly, the developer intended a stable 60 FPS because of PSVR. This is not a win to Xbox. Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. There's I haven't really paid that much attention to it, and this is where you just see the narratives kind of start to fly around. I don't know if there's truth to what you're saying or not. I haven't looked into it, but that's just that's generally what people are saying. So it's whatever, I haven't heard anybody complain about the way Hitman looks or plays on a PS5. Do you think we will see more horror games for the PS5? I hope so. I think we will. Yeah, I think we will. Just trying to make sure I don't miss any here. MBG just keeps flying around. I hate it when it does that. If Sony Studios could trade IPs within themselves, what studio would interest you? Example: Naughty Dog trading Uncharted to Bend for Siphon Filter. I would like to see. I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, that would be an interesting one. I would like to see, I guess, maybe. Oh, this is tough. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I would like to see what maybe. I'm trying to think of I know that's not a Sony studio, but I would like to see what any of Sony's other studios could do with Death Stranding. I know that's not I'm pretty sure that's Kojima's IP, but that would be interesting just because I would like to see how differently the game would turn out gameplay wise. If they kept the same concept, just imagine Death Stranding being much more of an action heavy game. That would be interesting, I think. Why would you think Sony will buy Bluepoint when Japan studios mostly help them with all their exclusives they made for Sony? I think Sony would want to buy Bluepoint to avoid them being bought by anybody else, and to make sure that they're within, I mean, Bluepoint has worked with other publishers in the past, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that they wouldn't be willing to do so with other publishers. But I think that they would want to buy Bluepoint to make sure that they don't get acquired by somebody else. That's my assumption. I think Bluepoint would just fit perfectly under Sony as that critically acclaimed remake studio. And eventually they could maybe work on their own original IP. You're saying Savage Starlight is Naughty Dog's quadruple A game? I haven't heard of it, man. I'll have to look into it. Killzone remake. That's why they're taking down the old website for a new one, possibly. If Sony acquires Bluepoint, I will say, here we go. Yeah, I think they're going to. MBG, I think VRR is coming to PS5 in early March. Yeah, I heard about that. I'm going to wait for official confirmation. Because I think that if Sony definitely is long overdue for a big update, and some more info on the PS5. Will you start Final Fantasy Remake when all the parts have been released? Yeah, I might. It's possible. I can't make any promises. Do you like the release model in the games industry of a Game of the Year edition with all DLC 1 year later for cheaper, or would you prefer everything day one as an Ultimate Edition for a higher price? It's a good question. Me personally, I'm of the mind I would just prefer everything at once. I would just rather pay for everything at once. I don't like waiting, obviously. So, I'm not a fan of the, but at the same time, it's if you never know that it's coming on the horizon, then you don't know that you're waiting. So if it's something that's just kind of dry, for example, there was a rumor that Death Stranding is going to have an Ultimate Edition with more story content. We didn't hear anything about that, and they didn't say anything about that. And so I don't feel as though I'm waiting for anything. It was just a rumor. But if it were to turn out to be true, I would be totally okay with that. I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll buy that. Sure, I'll play some more. To whereas if they said look forward to more story content in the future, I'd constantly feel like, oh, I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting. And I hate that feeling. Um, will Sony focus on indie games in the future? I don't think so, honestly. I think Sony still cares about indie games and they're a big part of PlayStation's DNA at this point. But when it comes to what their focus is on, I don't think it's indie games. I think their focus is on indie, like basically they put Shuhei Yoshida in charge of like, look for these great indie games that you think we can like market on the PlayStation platform, like Fall Guys, right? Like Shuhei Yoshida, he was the one who found that game and was like, let's sign this to PlayStation Plus because this is going to be the next big game. And I think that that's basically as far as their focus reaches. Maybe, and also like, I don't want to make it sound like they're ignoring indies because they're not. Like, go watch the past PlayStation 5 events. Indies played a big part of that. I just think when it comes to Sony's like main focus on what they care about most, it like 80% of it I think definitely goes to their bigger projects for sure. Are you excited for FNAF SB on PS5? I can't say I am. I can't say I am. Have you experienced any bugs on the PS5? Is it loud? No, I haven't. I mean, the worst I've experienced, as I said in the past, is maybe a couple of game crashes. And is it loud? No, not at all. Unless the disc is spinning, which it does every couple of hours for like 20 seconds for whatever reason. But no, it has not been loud at all. If announced, which would you pre-order first, Bloodborne 2 or Metal Gear Solid Remake? I'd pre-order both instantaneously, but definitely Metal Gear Solid first. I mean, I love Bloodborne, dude. One of my favorite games of all time. But dude, Metal Gear Solid, that it holds a special place in my heart, in my gaming heart. So, when do you think we're gonna get news for Elden Ring? It has to be this year, dude. It has to be like soon, right? I'm gonna say more towards like June of this year. When will the next Sony event be? Yeah, I mean, I did talk about the event rumors specifically with Microsoft. There are no rumors to report on right now. There's no talk about when Sony's next event will be. If I had to assume, I think that I mean it depends if you count like a state of play as an event. I think Sony is likely to have a state of play for Returnal as well as a state of play for maybe Deathloop and certainly Ratchet and Clank. But I think that they're going to have a separate, dedicated, like massive event similar to the Future of Gaming event they had in June of 2020. I think they're going to replicate that again. So I think, I mean, if you're talking about a big event, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a little while, June, but they could do something smaller before that. It really depends. I think Sony's kind of they have this like routine now of like state of plays event, state of plays event. What we haven't seen in quite some time is a smaller state of play that's not completely focused on a single game. That it's been some time since we've seen that, and I think Sony might have decided to stop doing that. We'll have to see. Because I mean, the truth is, like, guys, like every time Sony did a state of play that wasn't focused on a single game, like Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us, Demon Souls, whatever, people would get, and I was guilty of this as well. We would like our expectations would get way too inflated. And I think Sony realized that like they can't really avoid that happening. So they're only going to do massive events basically with big reveals all at one time. I could be wrong though. MBG, people believe that Sony should purchase Bluepoint. Why are they so important to acquire to people when all they've done is copies of old games? Why not a studio like Housemarque first? Oh, I think Sony would also consider Housemarque. I think they are. I think they're waiting to see how well they're going to do with their first proper AAA title with Returnal. But I think Bluepoint just makes a lot of sense for Sony because having a studio like Bluepoint in your back pocket where it's like, think about the plethora of IP that Sony sits on right now. Old IP that's not currently being, developed on, there's no development timeline for it. We don't know if it's coming back. Having a studio like that where you can basically just hand that off to them and you know that they're going to do an amazing job with a remake or a remaster, I think that's kind of invaluable to Sony, where it's something that makes a lot of sense for them to have. And I think that that would actually prove to be valuable for any publisher. So even though it may not be the mega acquisition that, some people were hoping like, oh, they're going to, they're going to have to match Bethesda. Like, no, Sony doesn't need to do that, but Bluepoint makes a lot of sense. Housemarque does as well. You think Japan studios will reveal their FPS race base? Again, another game I'm not too familiar with. Is VRR coming to PS5 and will it support all TV models? Unfortunately, I don't have an answer to that. We need to wait for Sony to officially comment on it. I think if I had to guess, though, I think, yeah, it will. And I think it will support pretty much all. Well, I think it will support any TV model that supports it, All right, we could do just a couple more here. Do you think PlayStation Experience is gone for good? Yeah, I remember PlayStation Experience. I think it is. I mean, it might not be. It's hard to say. They might just randomly announce it. I think the problem is Sony didn't. I think when they did that, it was like a good idea. Like they're like, yeah, PlayStation Experience. So a second major event at the end of the year. But the problem was they started to realize like, but we're running out of stuff to announce, and we keep, having people show up and, people make a big deal of it and they end up disappointed. And I think that's why I think what Sony could do is they could just maybe do it. I think Sony, I don't know. I mean, they could bring it back randomly and be like, this year we're doing an experience because we have way more to announce and way more to talk about. And then the next year, they're maybe like, we're not going to bring it back this year because things are a little bit quieter. We don't have enough to show. I mean, I think that they could do that. I think they've already kind of been doing it that way. They just haven't been calling it the PlayStation Experience. Saying, why would they have a big event? Last year it was to reveal the PS5. Now the PS5 is out. Well, because they're going to need to sell the PS5. Again, Sony will need to have a big event, regardless of whether or not they have enough PS5s to sell. Because a lot of Sony's games, whether we like it or not, are still, like, even a game just like Horizon, as well as many third-party games, they're still going to make their way onto PS4. So, even if they can't, they still have to keep the mind share. Even if they can't keep up with demand, Sony has to keep the mind share flowing, and they also have to keep current PS5 owners happy. And just because they're having trouble keeping up with demand doesn't mean they are basically going to make PlayStation 5 owners take a back seat. Look at what they're doing with Returnal, Deathloop, and Ratchet and Clank. 3 pretty significant games that, especially with Ratchet and Clank, you could argue is a system seller, and they're not letting the supply constraint stop them. Oyakarumi, you're saying, I just want to see Project Athia. I'm really excited for that. And Fable, if it ever comes out. Yeah, I want to see both as well. Project Athia has the potential to be massive, though, for Sony. I really think it does, because it's like a new IP, and it looked pretty good. And it's being developed with the PS5 hardware in mind. So give us a prediction for GTA 6 teaser. Not a full trailer, not gameplay, just the very first 30 seconds pre-rendered glimpse. I don't know, dude. I don't know, man. I feel like it's impossible to make a prediction for GTA 6 because it's like, dude, all they could have to do is reveal the logo and it's over. Like, it's like tidal wave. You know what I mean? Kind of like God of War Ragnarok, but even bigger. I mean, we're talking about GTA 6, dude. But GTA 6 will be an exciting game when it's revealed, regardless of what, what it ends up being exactly. Freeze Vamp, you're saying what stresses you is waiting for Metal Gear Solid to pop up at a state of play. Yeah, it is stressful, always waiting to see if these games are going to comp. You're saying look up Ray Space and Savage Starlight MBG. Are you excited for Elden Ring? Do you think we'll get Elden Ring news? Yeah, I did answer that earlier. I am very excited for Elden Ring. I hope it comes out this year. If it does come out this year, then it's easily one of my most anticipated games. But I do think that I think we're going to see it more this year. You're saying you're still waiting for PS5 to get themes and avatars. Yeah, what's up with that? I don't know. I guess that's just going to come later. And I guess this will be the last one. Joshua Reese, what PS5 release will be a visual showcase this year? This year, I think Returnal has the potential, based off of what some people were saying, kind of like doing a deep dive into it. Returnal apparently is going to be somewhat of a graphical showcase, but I think the real graphical showcase is going to come in the form of Ratchet and Clank. And then we're going to see Horizon Zero Dawn kind of like just take it to another level. Not Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West, take it to another level. And you're saying, MBG, or is there any news on Gran Turismo 7? As of right now, no. If there was, I would be reporting on it. So, All right, guys, with that, that is going to do it for episode 49 of Press X Podcast. It's turned out significantly longer than I anticipated, which is fine. I always enjoy my time here, and I appreciate all of the support you guys have been showing me. I appreciate my members, appreciate you guys donating super chats. I just, I can't stress enough how the direct support that you guys show goes a very long way in the maintenance of this channel and, keeping it going and keeping it thriving and, keeping it going smoothly. So thank you guys so much for that. If you could do me a favor on your way out, make sure you hit that like button. We're over 538 likes. Let's see how close we can get to 600 likes. And if you are somebody who's listening after the fact and you're at the end here, you also hit that like button. Really helps. And if you could do me a favor, I don't normally ask for this, but it actually does help. For those who are still here, when the podcast is done, come back and leave a comment on it about anything we talked about. But the comments do help as well. It helps kind of get the podcast out there more so in the algorithm. So yeah, appreciate everything you guys do for me. We will be back here next Sunday, same time, same place, hopefully with some exciting topics to discuss. So I hope to see you then. But until next time, guys, take care.